Our great friend Phil Kerpen joining us once again, president of American Commitment. Phil, it's been a while. Always a pleasure to have you on, sir.
Hey, the pleasure's mine, Kevin.
You know, this is a big one for us. Consolidation, hospitals being nonprofits, the high cost of healthcare. Idaho is hit with it. Everybody's hit with it. Phil, what's wrong with it?
Well, I think we've got a number of policies, mostly federal, but also some at the state and local levels as well, that have just made it very, very difficult to be an independent physician anymore, to run an independent imaging center, independent clinic, independent surgical center. And so we're just seeing all these things get rolled up into these gigantic health systems, and the federal government actually pays more. They'll pay more for almost anything if it becomes part of the hospital system. They add facility fees, they have higher reimbursement rates, and so we're incentivizing this with our own tax dollars. We're incentivizing it with a bunch of regulatory policies also. And I think it's been bad for patients. It's been bad for taxpayers. It's caused things to cost more, and there's less choice and there's less competition. And, Kevin, a lot of times when we get into these healthcare reform debates, it gets so focused on insurance and it gets so focused on kind of the financial model, and it gets away from this more basic problem we have, that there's just not a lot of supply and there's not a lot of choice of providers, and there are not a lot of independent doctors anymore like there used to be. And it's accelerated a lot in the 15 years since Obamacare. I think before Obamacare, which was only 15 years ago, about 20% of doctors worked for a corporate employer. Now it's about 60%, and it's rising very, very quickly. And I think it's great to talk about, as the president has and as I have for many years, to talk about how much better off we'd be if we got healthcare dollars under the control of individuals instead of going right to insurance companies. And I'm still totally for that and pushing in that direction. But if you control the dollars, but you got no choice in how you spend them because there's no real competition among providers, you haven't really accomplished much. So I think we've got to focus on the supply side and on having more providers, more doctors, more clinics, more surgical centers, more imaging centers, instead of just these giant systems that own everything.
Well, and we see that here with some of our nonprofits that continue to grow and continue to make exorbitant amounts of money, and really the limits on competition. Phil, what's the impact it has on doctors? Do they love the profession like they did years ago?
I think that for some of them it's a great relief when they sell their practice and go into a hospital system, because they don't have to deal with the insurance companies anymore. They don't have to deal with the government bureaucrats. They've got whole departments that handle that for them, and they don't have to run a business anymore. They're just getting a salary. So in a certain sense, it's a relief, but also I think for a lot of them, it's a huge negative, because they like being the boss. They like being in charge. They like running things. They like exercising their own judgment. A lot of these systems have, kind of directives on how they provide care. They interfere kind of even at the doctor-patient level. And so, I think it's a mixed bag. I don't think they would do it unless on some level they wanted to, but I do think they've lost a lot. And I think the quality of care suffers as well.
Our great friend Phil Kerpen joining us from American Commitment. We talked a little bit about consolidation. Has this led to a lot of consolidation in the nonprofit hospital sector, sir?
Well, they've been the biggest winners in this whole trend, because not only do they have the benefit of federal payment policies that pay more when things are in a hospital setting or when they're tagged as a hospital setting. By the way, it's not even necessarily that you move things to a hospital setting. It's when a hospital buys a physician's practice, they rebrand the exact same office that you used to go to as a hospital outpatient facility, and now the government pays a higher rate for the same visit with the same doctor in the same office. But the nonprofits also have another huge advantage. They don't pay taxes. And so, what we're seeing is a huge hole punched in the tax base at the federal level, because they're exempt from federal taxes, but also at the state and local level. And we're seeing as these nonprofits buy up, facilities and buy up practice groups, they take them off the tax rolls. And so there's a lot of upward pressure on everybody else's property taxes, because huge amounts of property have been taken off the tax rolls. By the way, the same thing happens with universities. We've got kind of these two massive growing nonprofit sectors with universities and hospitals. They also overlap with university hospitals. And they're buying up massive amounts of land. They're buying up massive numbers of facilities and businesses. And every time they do, they take them off the tax rolls federally and state and local. And so, they've got it's a huge thumb on the scale, essentially, that causes this ratchet where we're seeing more and more what really is commercial activity move into the tax-exempt sector, and it just punches a hole in the tax base.
And again, Boise seems to be an example of both entities here. You have Boise State expanding, and you also have, again, these nonprofits, hospitals that expand that are exempt from the. Phil, just regurgitating what you just said here, the taxes that the rest of us are paying.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I'm skeptical of any time you have huge consolidation and a loss of competition, a loss of choice, not as a market phenomenon, but as a government phenomenon, as a result of government policies that sort of directed things in that direction. Because what happens also is not only are we losing choice and competition, but you get these giant sort of bureaucratized systems that benefit from tax breaks, benefit from huge amounts of federal payments and other kinds of subsidies. And their main business becomes going and pleading with politicians to get more benefits and more subsidies and more giveaways. And so they're not in the business of serving customers. In this case, it's serving patients. And so I think it's a really negative trend. And I have to say, I'm pretty happy that Congress is finally paying attention to this. They did some hearings. They were pretty aggressive. We'll see if they actually try to pass any laws, but at least they're aware of what's going on.
Our great friend Phil Kerpen joining us from American Commitment, Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. So, Phil, it's been a while since we've talked. That's on our end, not yours. Your thoughts on what's going on in D.C.? You're in the thick of it all the time.
Well, it looks like they finally managed to get this bill through the Senate to fund the Department of Homeland Security, and that took basically all year. So they haven't really done anything else all year, and I guess it's good that they finally got that done last night in the Senate. And it's pretty incredible that Democrats were willing to have, the Department of Homeland Security not funded for, almost half a year. But no, this is going to be a very unproductive year, unfortunately, because it's sort of a campaign year and they're gridlocked. And there's some discussion that they might do a third reconciliation bill, having now burned the second one just to reopen the Department of Homeland Security. I hope they do. I think there's a lot they could accomplish on, additional tax cuts, on a lot of healthcare reforms I'd like to see. But I'm sort of skeptical that it'll happen. I think usually in these election years, they get towards the summer and they just want to go home and campaign, and they're very unproductive. And on healthcare, because last year, the last shutdown we had, that one was all about the Democrats saying, "Oh my God, we have to have these supersized Obamacare subsidies. If these are not extended, it's going to be the end of the world." And by the way, we were talking about letting subsidies expire that would take the taxpayer share of most Obamacare policies from like 95 to like 85. So it's still massively subsidized. But nothing they predicted, none of the bad things they predicted happened. I do give credit to Republicans for once not caving. None of the bad things they predicted happened, and they just changed the subject. Democrats just stopped talking about it. And I wish Republicans would have said, we're going to keep talking about health care. We're going to keep pushing, pro-market reforms that give you control of the dollars, and supply side reforms so that there are more choices. And I do think there's a big opportunity there, but I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think it's very likely that they'll do anything on it this year.
And then you take a look at the president. Your thoughts on how he's facing things. Do you see the UFC stadium there every day, Phil?
It's on the whole, I think that the executive branch has accomplished a lot. They've done a lot on regulatory reform that's been excellent. They've done a lot on energy that's been excellent, although obviously undermined right now by the war driving the oil price through the roof. I think that, in general, almost everything good you can do in the executive branch, they've been doing. How many of these things can you make permanent enough to survive the next time a Democrat comes in? Because Trump, of course, did a lot of good things in his first term that Biden very quickly reversed and made things, he was under Obama, which I didn't think was possible. He did it pretty quickly. And so, it's great to do things in the executive branch, but it's much, much better when it's much harder to undo.
Phil Kerpen joining us from American Commitment. Phil, let's go to one of our favorite topics, the coal industry. The president announcing $700 million in new support for the coal industry. I can't believe in the age of energy with the AI data centers and everything else that we haven't brought back coal. I know the president, like you, like me, we're all big fans of coal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge because just the price of natural gas has become so cheap that, basically any new any new fossil generation you're going to build is probably going to become some kind of combined cycle natural gas, and that's generally what we've seen. But I think, from an energy security and kind of from just having enough baseload capacity, I would love to see us bring back coal plants. I think that we have a vast supply of coal, obviously, in this country, and we have really, really good pollution control technology now. It's not like it was years ago. And the shame is so many coal plants were shut down simply because of government policies under Obama. And, of course, one of the most famous ones was his mercury air toxic standard rule that raised the mercury limit. So, they made it so stringent that it was essentially impossible, and they got forced, hundreds of coal plants to convert. And then the Supreme Court struck it down and said it was always illegal. And I remember the Obama EPA director said that's fine. It already accomplished what we wanted it to do. And so much of the destruction of the coal sector was done illegally through abuse of power at the EPA under Obama. And, I think it's a shame that even though we now know that it was done illegally, it's difficult to reverse just because of the economics of what's happened since. And so it's a tricky thing because, we don't want to subsidize. We don't want to use taxpayer dollars. But we definitely, shouldn't be happy about what happened. I mean, to me, the most important thing for coal is we really need a West Coast export terminal, and we need to be able to get to the Asian markets because they're booming like crazy. Whatever they say about global warming or whatever, the Chinese and the Indians are building about a coal plant every week, and they're focused on domestic production now, and China is increasing and buying from Australia. That's where they get all their imports. And, we should be selling coal. We should be selling coal in Asia where it's absolutely booming. But as you know, we've got liberal states on the West Coast that are totally opposed to, letting us, reach those world markets. And I've long said we got to figure out a way to do it if it's going down through Mexico or whatever, if the West Coast people are that crazy. But if we could reach world markets and keep our coal industry strong, then we'll have that safety margin of knowing that if natural gas prices rise, we have a viable, booming domestic coal industry that can provide for our domestic electricity needs as well. So I would really focus on trying to get to those export markets and either finding a way to overrule those liberal West Coast states or go around them.
Our great friend Phil Kerpen joining us, American Commitment. Phil, I know you're always busy. Anything else you'd like to share with us today, sir?
Just, look, let's hope that we get this war resolved sooner rather than later and the oil price comes down. We need that economically and politically. That's probably the biggest factor that determines where we're headed the rest of this year is whether that gets resolved sooner rather than later.
Well, Phil, I'm glad I'm still with us. I'm glad you're still with us, bro.
All right, absolutely.
Our great friend Phil Kerpen, American Commitment. Thank you, Phil. Take care. Always appreciate Phil. And, of course, it seems years, but only months. We used to have Phil on all the time talking about energy. And really a lot of that was the president has done such a great job with energy. By the way, if you missed the opening of that, he's talking about the growth of nonprofits in the hospital sector and in the the university sector. So these nonprofits, as we've seen, getting bigger and bigger. And then you say, well, Kevin, that's great. They're nonprofits. Sure they are. But we see all the building going up involving these nonprofits. Now, what's the problem with a nonprofit? Well, then they don't pay taxes. So let's say you're a medical provider and you've decided that you want to go out on your own. Well, you have to pay taxes on the facilities that you use. Everybody pays taxes, except if you're a church or you're a nonprofit. And I'll tell you the guy that's been on this for years, Tea Party Bob. And if you don't pay taxes, you have a lot more money to build buildings, I suppose. But the consolidation limits choice. The consolidation limits a lot of things. Coming up, we'll talk a little bit about what's going on in California. Thank you for starting your day with us. And again, as we want to make sure to let you know at 580-5436, it's Boise Music Festival Day. Kevin, what do you mean? Well, we've only got, 1, 2? Let me see. Where's my calendar? Sweet William, pull up my calendar, please. What's that, Kevin Miller? Do it yourself. All right, we have, what is today? Today is the 5th. We've only got 2 Fridays left. Only 2 Fridays left before no, wait a minute. 3 Fridays left. Man, it must be early. 3 Fridays left before the Boise Music Festival. That is June 27th. By the way, Based on our incredible conversation yesterday, I wrote a piece on not only the mayor of Boise, but the mayor of Meridian raising your taxes. Whatever happened to fiscal responsibility in Idaho's two largest cities? Let's talk about it next. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO 2026. No, it's one of those things. And I was looking at the Boise Music Festival website, and I'm going, if you had to break down the 10 biggest acts, would it be, who would it be? Well, you could say Jelly Roll, who wasn't even the headliner. Ludacris, I guess. Now, again, I'm not down with these folks, and I understand a lot of people are. Maybe you're Two Fly Bry, maybe you're Jeremy, maybe you're Tim, maybe you're Sally. Life is better when you have a Sally listening in the morning. Maybe you're the famous Sally, the snow cone lady of Star. I don't know. Or a Teresa, these traditional American names. Anyway, when you think about the greatest acts that have come to Boise, Pitbull, Jelly Roll, not Pitbull, not Pit Roll, Pitbull. Thank you, Sweet William. Let's see, Vanilla Ice, MC Hammer. To me, it's almost like presidents. How can you get past the year one? Bret Michaels and the Backstreet Boys. And you're going, well, Kevin Miller, blah, blah, blah. Bret Michaels won the Celebrity Apprentice that year, so he was hot. The Backstreet Boys, after they performed here, maybe it was proof of concept, all of a sudden they're killing it in Vegas again. And then you have Train, and then you have so many others. So thinking about taking a look at that as well. But, this guy, Marshmello, is going to be big, and Sean Paul and everybody else. But Marshmello, he could change the universe, if you will. By the way, if you think it's over in California, apparently nothing is over as long as Democrats are counting.
A lot of those uncounted ballots are coming from the heavily populated counties of Sacramento, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego. So the current standings could change. For now, Republican Steve Hilton remains in the lead in the gubernatorial race with 27%. Democrat Javier Becerra is in second place with 26%. And fellow Democrat Tom Steyer is trailing in third place with 20%. In the LA mayoral race, Spencer Pratt is at second place with 29%. Progressive Nithya Raman is sitting at third with 23%. Several folks are now criticizing California's vote counting process.
Yeah. It's almost like they're counting enough votes till they get the results that they want. Lib. By the way, if my man Patrick is listening right now, my man, the Donut Man, Patrick, who lives in Emmett, has a couple of great donut shops. We could actually call him the Donut King of Idaho. Why? Because he makes donuts and he listens to this program. And he was so great in helping us at the Boise Music Festival. I'm looking at some of his donuts right now going, man, great donuts, great looking donuts, if you will. It is National Donut Day. And, we don't do days because I wish I could find the calendar what says this day and that day. But it is National Donut Day. Dylan's going, you're a donut eater, Kevin Miller. A little too inside, dilly, silly dilly. However, it is National Donut Day.
National Donut Day means free donuts at shops large and small across the country, with big names like Dunkin' and Krispy Kreme participating. Established by the Salvation Army in 1938, it's celebrated on the first Friday in June to honor the organization's donut lassies and donut girls, the women who traveled to France to serve donuts and snacks to soldiers during World War I. To mark the day, the Salvation Army is distributing donuts to veterans in several cities across the U.S. and have planned other events in Washington, D.C. Krispy Kreme is giving away a free donut, no purchase necessary, while at Dunkin', customers get a free donut with a drink purchase. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Yeah, we got no Dunkin' here. No Dunkin' for you, bub. Oh, aren't they building a Dunkin'? Allegedly. So, again, congratulations. Mojo's Donuts, Patrick, God bless you. All donut people, God bless you. Our friends at Pastry Perfection, I hope they still listen. Maybe they will. If they do, send us a line. Thank you. And Krispy Kreme, thank you as well. You know, we pride ourselves on police officers, the trades, the plumbers, part of the trades, and people that own and work at donut shops. Years ago, and it's funny because Pastry Perfection will provide us donuts, but we didn't really take that deal to the next level. We did the show from there. Well, Kevin, people do the shows from there all the time, but then we shot a video of me actually making the donuts, which was, they weren't edible, but it was fascinating to see people that come in. I marvel at the people that, you know, they get up early, and it's, again, an antiquated thing. But there's an old commercial, and see if we'll pull this up, called It's Time to Make the Donuts. And it's a guy from Dunkin' Donuts, and very famous in New England. But I'll bring that to you where everything is all about the donuts. And finally, since we don't have Channel 6 to give us the NHL playoffs.
The Vegas Golden Knights took on the Carolina Hurricanes in Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final Thursday. This game was filled with high drama, with Vegas up 2-0 entering the third period. Carolina scored 2 goals to tie it. And then the captains for both teams traded goals of their own to send the game to overtime, tied 3-3. But in the end, Carolina emerged victorious.
Gostisbehere, they score! Seth Jarvis quiets the critics and ignites the crowd.
The call on ABC, Seth Jarvis with the game-winning goal as the Hurricanes win it 4-3 to tie the series at a game apiece. Tony Genualdo, Fox News.
Pretty awesome stuff. Again, too bad we can't watch it. We have that story for you on our website, Channel 6. Channel 6 is down. Does anybody miss Channel 6? Not a lot of heartbreak like we saw when Channel 7 went down due to DirecTV. And if you have Dish, if you have something else, good for you, man. Good for you. That is awesome. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Thank you to Window World Boise. WindowWorldBoise.com, the sponsor of this portion of the program. But, you know, I kind of root for the NHL. Going to see a live hockey game is amazing. Obviously, we have the Steelheads, and it's nice that we have the Steelheads here, and they're a wonderful group. But, I mean, they're always sold out. But I will tell you, and I've never been to a live NBA game, but going to a hockey game at that level is just amazing. Years ago, and it's weird, you take a look at things in your place in life at the time, and maybe you don't appreciate it. I worked in Raleigh, and we were partners with the Carolina Hurricanes, and they were really trying to get going. Remember, they were the old Hartford Whale, and so we would do partnerships, and my boss, the sick, demented, twisted, gifted guy that drove me creatively insane but really took me to new levels. You ever having one of those, just a tortured soul, takes one to know one, lived next door to, you know, one of the people in the Hurricanes. The kid was like 25 and was a multimillionaire. And it must be an incredible dichotomy of you're young, you have a ton of money, and even now with the NIL, it must be even crazier. Regardless of that, when I moved to Nashville, the Predators, that are doing incredibly well now, they were on the verge of leaving. And then I launched this campaign to save the Predators, and then I got the boot and they didn't. In Pittsburgh, the Penguins were trying to build a new arena, and I made the infamous statement, who cares about the NHL? Because I was a contrarian. Imagine that. It's one team's French Canadians against another team's French Canadians. That didn't sit well. However, the NHL people were always the best to work with because they needed the exposure. They needed the community outreach. So it's nice to see them back on ABC. I really, really wish that we could watch ABC fake news, but we can't because Scripps and DirecTV are going back and forth. Okay, let's go to what's going on in California as we talked a little bit about. Apparently, the liberals are moving up the power charts. Amazing. Just like what happened in 2020. Oh, the conservatives are ahead when the votes are counted, but let's count more votes.
So the Save America Act is all voters must show photo ID. So you go to vote and you show photo ID. Not complicated, right? You know, who could oppose it? They say it's an 80-20. It's not. It's about 99-1, and we'll never find the one person. Andy, congratulations, Andy, on a big victory.
Thank you for your help.
That's great. I appreciate it, but you're very good at what you do, and I've been backing you right from the beginning for a long time, right?
Backing you too, sir.
For years, that's right. You have. Thank you. Congratulations. You won a big election. So you have all voters must show photo ID, identification. All voters must show a little thing called proof of citizenship. Would you say that's 99-1, Mr. Pennsylvania?
I would say that's maybe 100 to 0.
I would think so. They say
At least it should be.
No, but they say it's 80-20. It's not 80-20. It's 99. And we've never found the one person. There's another one. Then you have no mail-in ballots, but we want to be liberal, as they say. Or we'll say we want to be progressive. So it's no mail-in ballots. You see that, so what's happening in California? They're rigging the election. Now, maybe we caught them, and maybe they won't be able to get away with it. They tried with me. They did it successfully the second time. The third time, we made it too big to rig. Too many votes. They couldn't do it. They can only go. They sort of gave up at about 9:07 when they got slaughtered with the votes that came in. But no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. So we're being very progressive, and we just don't want cheating in our elections. And you see it happening in California. Those numbers are coming down rapidly. They found a lot of mail-in ballots last night, shockingly. So we don't want that.
The president is right. We'll talk about it next. Take your calls. We are just getting started the right way. Don't forget your chance to win tickets to the Boise Music Festival just by being caller 10 when I give you the cue to call. You're listening to Mayhem Millie on KIDO Talk Radio, 580 KIDO. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Jonathan Savage concerning, well, just his report yesterday on the Chinese using LinkedIn to spy on you. Are they spying on you? They're spying on me. Our top regional story.
A lot of those uncounted ballots are coming from the heavily populated counties of Sacramento, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego. So the current standings could change. For now, Republican Steve Hilton remains in the lead in the gubernatorial race with 27%. Democrat Javier Becerra is in second place with 26%. And fellow Democrat Tom Steyer is trailing in third place with 20%. In the LA mayoral race, Spencer Pratt is at second place with 29%. Progressive Nithya Raman is sitting at third with 23%. Several folks are now criticizing California's vote counting process.
Yeah, imagine that, as they should. By the way, if you're a fan of ICE, big win for them last night.
The 52-47 vote followed a marathon series of motions and amendments to change it over the course of 18 hours. Senators approved the legislation to fund Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Patrol for the next 3 years. There were bipartisan efforts to add amendments that would restrict what the president has called a $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund for Trump's political allies who believe they've been politically persecuted. One such defeated amendment was proposed by Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy, who was recently defeated by a Trump-backed primary challenger, which would have redirected the fund's payments to law enforcement officers hurt in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
There we have it. Kevin Mel in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So we have the rigged California election, and then we have, in addition to that, thankfully, ICE being funded. Let's roll on, and we go to, well, Mark, the watchdog of Eagle. It's an early Mark, the watchdog of Eagle today. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Well, California is nothing more than a socialist-run criminal syndicate. That whole state, unless you have the FBI go in there and the Department of Justice and go through their whole election system, it is run like that story I sent you probably about 5 years ago, Kevin, that Gateway Pundit had about the sordid tale of England's mail-in ballots and how they are able to perpetrate fraud and put all these Muslims into power there in England. Same kind of an idea, same actions going on down there in California. The demon rat party. I mean, other than the sick-minded that would keep voting for these type of people, you can't do anything about the fraudulent ballots that are being sent in. And let me ask you something, Kevin. How did the last election go? I mean, didn't California have to have all their ballots in for president? They couldn't drag that on for weeks and months like they're doing it here. Now, how come in the last election, the national elections, they can't take the weeks and months that they're trying to do now to come up with the numbers they need so that they can retain their position of power there illegally? Now, do you see what I'm saying?
I agree with you. And, the fix is in, it appears.
Yeah. So now, how can you have the 2024 elections in California had to have all their ballots in by a specific time? Here, they're stretching it back out. They go back to where we can count it for days, weeks, and even months if we want to, till we come up with a magic number so our socialist allies can cheat and win their position of power. This has got to stop. I mean, this is straight out of a banana republic. Now, I'll tell you why. Which is the 8th or 9th largest economy on earth? The economy of California, right? Why would you want to lose, meaning the Demon Rat Party, a state that is the most populous, that has an economy that's the 8th or 9th largest in the world, where you can still rip off and steal from the taxpayers and give it to illegal aliens, line your crooked pockets with it, and get away with basically murder? Yeah, in the political sense. They are...
Well, hold on. Let me jump in here for a second here. Let's see. The polls have been closed for over 36 hours, and only 58% of the vote is in. Now, remember, Florida can count 10 million votes in a night, but California, it takes weeks.
That's right. Now, why is that? There has to be something. You could talk about states' rights all you want for all the liberals out there that are listening, because I know there are libtards listening.
Liberal.
Yeah, liberal. Yeah. So you tell me how that works during the 2024 elections, but here we are in the elections down there for California for mayor and governor, and they can stretch it out for go back the other way. Tell me, there has to be a mandate. You could talk about states' rights, but when the states are violating and criminally doing these electoral fraudulent actions to the people there in any state, California is the greatest example. This includes Oregon and Washington State, because it happens there too. It happens back in some of the eastern states controlled by the little mafia known as the Demon Rat Party. This has got to stop. There has to be something that's instituted into the states across this country that does not allow it, because it's their representatives that also get to go back to Washington and whether they run for Congress down there for the federal position or the state Senate or whatever, the Senate, their representatives that go to Washington. If it's fraudulently done, that affects things here in this country nationally, because of fraudulent people getting in there and being put in there fraudulently and their power back in Washington, D.C. It should be across the board. Something needs to stop with this. They need to institute mandatory restrictions on this mail-in ballot crap, because again, this is just straight out of a banana republic. And again, they don't want to lose that power. They don't want to lose the money that they can steal out of the taxpayers' pockets, and again, run their crooked empire that they've been running all this time. So California's a big money machine to them. Look at all the money they charge for the gasoline, the taxes on gasoline, stuff that is not done. I'm hearing about potholes and problems in L.A. from Spencer Pratt's campaign. And where's all the tax dollars going? It's going to the damned illegals, because they need to keep that power base to retain their illegal power that they have in Los Angeles or the entire state of California. Well,
imagine if they lost California, and somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
I think one of the things that's going on is that this is, Nancy Pelosi in the twilight of her years. You can't tell me if Pelosi were running things that this would be the situation they'd be in. She had such an iron firm grip. I mean, she got rid of Joe. She got rid of a president.
The stock market fraudster, the insider trading one that Martha Stewart ended up going to jail for, that she's pulled off and managed to get away with it. A lot of even the Crenshaw from the Republican side. Okay, so we have our thugs. And
we got rid of Crenshaw, though.
Yeah, well,
you talk about that. The Republicans don't play around. I mean, we have a higher standard when it comes to things. Crenshaw got the boot, man.
Compared to the Demon Rat Party, the Republicans don't come close for the fraud perpetrated amongst the American citizenry across this country. They are by far, like I said, they've turned into nothing from the John F. Kennedy days into a criminal organization. Period.
Well, forget Kennedy. Let's go recent history. They are nothing like Bill Clinton, and I would dare say they're so wacko loony. Barack Obama is a conservative compared to them today.
I think you got that one right on the money there, Kevin. Yeah. You have a great day there at KIDO, and happy weekend.
Happy weekend, Mark, the happy watchdog. Why don't we do this? Let's give you the cue to call, and I'll just keep yapping. How about that? Caller 10, boom, boom, boom. Do we have any marshmallow to play here? Maybe we'll do that. How about it's time to make the donuts? Okay. While we're doing that, phone number's here. It's National Donut Day, and you're going to go, Kevin Miller, what's the deal with the donuts? So most of you have lives. You don't follow the online thing. So Speaker of the House, Mike Moyle, who listens to this program, is seen with people eating donuts. And here you just type it on YouTube, and eventually it comes up. I don't know why he does this, but he does. So then you have people that are critical of the speaker, and what they do is they have pictures of people with the donuts, with Mike Moyle, and they go, you're nothing more than a donut eater. So in honor of National Donut Day, and again, he's the most famous donut person around, and again, Patrick, we appreciate Patrick of Mojo's Donuts, 2 locations, great guy, thank you, great family. Wonderful man. Listen to the program. So here you go. Here is an ode to an old time saying. It's time to make the donuts. Number 1. Number 2. If you're not familiar with this, if we ever get a Dunkin' Donuts, and I think we had one several years ago. Dunkin' Donuts, a big East Coast brand. You have Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. The Boston people, they're all about Dunkin' Donuts. Is it a thing? The coffee's really good. The donuts are good, but it's an East Coast thing. So will it work in the Mountain West? Who knows? But in homage to National Donut Day.
Time to make the donuts. It isn't easy owning a Dunkin' Donuts. Time to make the donuts. Because unlike most supermarkets, we make up to 52 varieties fresh day and night. Of course, when you make donuts this way, there's a reward. People buy a lot of them. Good morning, folks. Look for Dunkin' Donuts money-saving coupon in your local newspaper.
Wow. How old was that ad? The early 1980s. The early 1980s. Let's go to 1987.
Time to make the donuts.
Don't be a chump. Get a decent night's sleep for once. But all the nice folks will want fresh Dunkin' Donuts.
It takes a lot of willpower to make Dunkin' Donuts fresh day and night. But we think it's worth it.
But we think it's worth it.
And you'll think it's worth it. There's something really delicious in this week's newspaper.
Yeah, back when they had newspapers. The golden year of 1987. By the way, congratulations to Bill. Bill has won. That family 4-pack to go see the Boise Music Festival. One team that will not be there is the people that brought us One Day at a Time.
This is it. This is it. This is life. The one you get. So go and have a ball.
Have a ball, everybody.
This is it.
Boise Music Festival.
Straight ahead and rest assured. should all.
We've got a carnival.
So while you're here, enjoy the view. Keep on doing what you do. Hold on tight, we'll muddle through one day at a time. One day at a time.
All right, where were you when that first came out back in the late 70s? 1975, one day at a time. Sean Hannity today at 1 on 580 KIDO. 580-5436. Congratulations again to Bill, our first winner of the day. Bill, you're going to Garden City, Bill. Congratulations, Bill. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Lots to talk about. ICE is finally funded, and the Democrats are having an issue with a guy who the New York Times did a complete expose on. And this Graham Plattner, with his Nazi tattoo and his challenges with drugs, his challenges with women. Apparently now the woman says she was used by the New York Times. He says it's not true. He never beat her up. He never got physical with her. He was just, quote, a bad boyfriend. Bad boyfriend.
Is again, totally false.
I do want to follow up one place on this, and I don't want to get too forensic, but, the Times basically reported that they saw texts of hers, including a text in August, I believe August 3rd of last year. This would be before October of last year, in which she basically said that you had a, quote, Nazi tattoo, and she joked about how she's going to go volunteer for Collins. Now, again, this is a text that got sent, so, we can place the time, right? This is in August. How does she know it's a Nazi tattoo in August of last year, and you don't know it's a Nazi tattoo in August of last year?
Well, she certainly didn't send that text to me. So whoever she sent it to and was talking to, I can't say why, but I will say that I certainly didn't know. And the text messages she's sending to friends who may have recognized it, they didn't tell me that. So
can we talk?
All right. That is Chris Hayes, who looks a lot like, what's her name, Rachel Maddow from MSN, that used to be MSNBC, but they didn't want to be affiliated with them anymore. You listen to this guy, Plattner. He's a smart guy. He's a smart dude. He's a oyster farmer. He's an oyster guy. He's on a boat. Tough job. A man's man, a real man, a manly man. Combat veteran, businessman. You're in Maine, one of the most politically correct places in the universe. And you're telling me that you don't know on your chest you've got a Nazi tattoo? Bro, come on, man. We all live in a politically correct world. It's not like you're a Gen Xer. It's not like you're a boomer. You're an older millennial, I'm assuming. You know the deal. And some people, they don't care. Hey, it was a dumb move at the time. I didn't know. But to wear that the whole time, and then, again, it's a generational thing. You have an amazing, growing, fast-developing generation that has different neural patterns, different mores, different values than the old people. What is that T-shirt, Old People Rule? The old people. And these are people that you flame me, I flame you. In the old days, it was, and it's a very different vibe, if you will. You have people that will flame you out, I guess that's how they call it, on the internet, but then come up to you and go, hey, man, what's going on? Oh, not much, really. How are you? There's no confrontation. And yet you can have people in Reddit, on text, saying mean, cruel, vulgar things, and they don't understand that eventually that's public record. Eventually, when you're leering like someone, case in point, two people. I don't know if Jim from Star is up right now. It's a buddy of his, Adam Carolla, and Jimmy Kimmel. They came up with The Man Show. So what was The Man Show? The Man Show was a show where you had guys literally watching women bounce on trampolines. You want to talk about the anti-women suffrage show? That was The Man Show. Would that ever go on today? No. Were they held accountable for it? No. Why does this matter? We'll find out next. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Believe believe it or not, is working today, right here on 580 KIDO. He joins us live from London, courtesy of Fox News Radio. Good morning, sir. How are you? Welcome to the real people's day of work.
Yeah, and I hope you appreciate it because I'm missing my kids' primary school sports day for this. I was sent a video of my 5-year-old involved in the sprint. There's 3 kids running. He was racing away right at the front before tripping and falling on his face. But he still recovered to come home second, so that's not too bad.
Well, good for him. He's got your guts, your dedication, your indomitable spirit, much like Darby Allin, if you will.
Maybe so. But what I don't have is Darby Allin's, I don't know what you call it, desire to throw myself off high things and nearly kill myself while doing so. I'm far more cautious.
I would say, well, good for you. That means longevity. Hey, I aired your report yesterday. You were talking about it today. Apparently, Jonathan Savage has partnered with the Chinese, so they spy on us through LinkedIn. Is that true, Jonathan Savage?
Well, I deny any involvement, but the security agencies from the US, the UK, China, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, they're called the Five Eyes when they work together. It's a really cool name. They've issued a bulletin warning people that China has agents or proxies posing as recruiters, going on LinkedIn and other websites, headhunting people and saying, hey, we got a job for you. We've got an assignment for you. We think you could help us because you're so well connected. You're so respected. Offering them hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars to compile reports. But of course, the people are unwitting. They think it's actually genuine companies offering them this money, but actually it's China trying to get their hands on non-public information. And the British say that thousands of people have been approached in this way already.
You know, it's interesting when we take a look at the Chinese. You ever been to the Florida Gulf Coast, the Space Coast, if you will?
I've been to what's it called? Clearwater.
You know, maybe you should just answer the question. The Space Coast. You ever been to the Space Coast?
Is that the Gulf Coast that you're talking about? Is that the coast you're talking about?
Sure, we'll just say yes. Whatever. It's right by
I've
Cape Canaveral.
I've been to St. Augustine on one side. I've been to Clearwater on the other side. So both coasts.
So there's a great article by The Atlantic on the spying going on because you have all these scientists with SpaceX and everything else and Blue Oyster Cult or whatever the other one is called, NASA, and they all go to these places where they, where you swing from the chandeliers and, you're Ric Flair 89 and you and the Four Horsemen. And the Chinese have spies that hit on people. And all you have to do is say you're an engineer, and they're so bad at it. And it's very different from as you and I grew up in the age of spycraft, where the Soviets and the Russians were so subtle at it. It's so blatant that the Chinese just kind of want to get in there with these folks and, form relationships. And all of a sudden, you before you know it, you're sleeping with a Chinese spy.
Yeah, and what we're talking about today is really illustrates the changing nature of espionage, from these sort of secret meetings in darkened car parks to dramatic exchanges, but things happening in plain sight, like you're saying. The honey traps or the employment honey traps, like is being illustrated today.
I worry about you with the honey traps. Don't fall for the honey traps.
I'll try my best. I've yet to be targeted in this way. I really don't think that's particularly flattering that I've not been targeted, and I kind of wish I had been, just so that I could turn them down.
I understand that, yes. I sadly, I can relate to that at 580 KIDO. So, Jonathan Savage, is there fear amongst the folks in Europe about higher cost of gasoline? Of the, Lufthansa was one of the earlier airlines to cancel flights because of the war. Is that growing there, sir?
I don't know if it is growing. I have seen some European jet fuel analysts today saying that there is enough, it just costs more. And that is going to be a problem going forward. A lot of airlines have not put prices up yet because they hedged their fuel purchasing. So they purchased in advance at a set price to protect them against an increase. So maybe it depends how long this goes on for, because I think come the winter we might see a big increase in prices, if not the shortage. You mentioned Lufthansa. Did you hear about the Lufthansa plane yesterday in Frankfurt?
No.
So there's actually a video of this. It's on the stand at Frankfurt. It's Lufthansa Boeing 787 about to head off to Los Angeles. The passengers are waiting in the terminal to board, and the front wheel mechanism collapses, and the whole front of the plane crashes down onto the tarmac. A few people were lightly injured on board, but rather when it's stationary at the stand than when it's coming into land, for sure.
I'm sure you've flown Lufthansa plenty of times. I flew back from Europe on Lufthansa. Nice airline.
Yeah, not a bad airline at all. Not my favorite in the world that I've flown on, but it's probably better than certainly some of the low-cost carriers, which you might have to go on sometimes.
Well, did you notice how he said that? He goes, "You are going to go on the low-cost carriers, Kevin."
Oh,
he's going to be the big
Kevin.
baller here, Dubai Airlines or whatever.
I'm actually about to be flying on a very low-cost carrier for you in about a month's time. I'm going to be flying Pegasus to Turkey for the NATO summit. Pegasus has very, very poor ratings, so I might turn into a flight reviewer for that one, just to let you know if it's as bad as they say it is.
Have you been to Turkey?
No, it's going to be my first time. I'm going to Ankara, which people say is the less interesting of the two big cities. I've no doubt that's true, but I'm looking forward to it nonetheless.
Well, I'm glad Fox is breaking out the budget to send you somewhere. No, having been to Turkey for about a month, Istanbul, the Church of St. Sophia, the Blue Mosque, the Grand Bazaar. I wish I did that when I was your age in my early 20s. I wish I would have done it later in life because, as you know, the older you get, the more you appreciate things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had a lot of freedom in my 20s and early 30s, and I know people who had kids early, and now they're only just getting their freedom. And they've got freedom, but they've also got money at the same time, which is what I didn't have.
Yes. We all make our choices. Do what you want to do, and you'll never work a day in your life.
Exactly. Who needs to retire?
Yes, as we work today, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you'd like to share? Perhaps an insight into the world of professional wrestling?
I don't know. I've got. I'm really annoyed that there's no wrestling on this Saturday night, as far as I can tell, because I've got a free night in the house to myself at home. So I'll just have to make do with some international soccer. There's a lot of that about coming up. I hope you're looking forward to the World Cup, which I know that you pour scorn on as a weak foreign sport. But if the United States do well, I'm pretty sure you will change your tune pretty sharpish.
No, I'm not a soccer guy. It's a communist sport. It's socialism. Everybody touches the ball. I didn't like it in 92 when the women won and it was all propaganda. I don't like it now. A bunch of skinny guys in baggy shorts kicking a ball through a net. Now, maybe you like that stuff. Not me.
Okay, fair enough. You just stick to whatever it is that you excel at, and I will see you on the other side.
Yeah, it's called the squared circle, buddy. It's called the squared circle.
Yeah, it is. It is the true sport of kings.
Jonathan Savage, the king, we appreciate you, sir. Thank you as always.
Have a good weekend.
Our great friend Jonathan Savage working on a Friday, which is earth-shattering for all of us. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We go to Captain Harry, who joins us now with a very somber announcement. Good morning, Captain Harry.
Top of the morning, Kevin. Thank you for your time. I just wanted to pass on to everybody that at 5 o'clock this morning, my pappy, Wayne Russell, passed away and went to the other side. On his 91st birthday party today, we are having a celebration of life out here at the Oasis Event Center. If anybody wants to come out here, there are a lot of people in Elmore County and Napa knew him. He was a big advocate of the Nazarene Christian Church and went to all their track meets for 26 years, never missed one. Fan of the year, but In closing, I'd just like to say that Wayne Russell was a hell of a man. Took his whole family to the promised land. North to Alaska where few men dare. Kodiak Island, look out for the bear. Pappy, rest in peace. And everybody out there loved Pappy. He was a very good Samaritan, helped a lot of people. Thank you very much, Kevin. I'll be standing by.
God bless you, Captain Harry. We're so sorry for your loss. And Captain Harry, with the importance of fathers and the indelible impact they have on all of us. Maybe we don't appreciate it at the time. Maybe they'll never know. They'll never understand the impact they have. God bless your dad. I'm sure he's watching us right now, Captain Harry. Whew. And again, Father's Day just around the corner. You know, tough being a dad, I imagine. Tough one. Get home from work. Kids are happy to see you. You're tired, you're beat. Maybe you're working 2 jobs. The moms, they're the backbone. They get a lot of the glory. Yeah, right, Kevin Miller. But the dads, whew, a great one. Just heard Captain Harry talking about his daddy. Yeah. Thank you, dads. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. The man who's going to tell us how stupid we are. The man who's going to say, I mean, by the way, we don't drink on this program. But if you have your milk, every time he says hypersonic missiles, just grab a swig of milk. Oh, yes, and don't forget, caller 10 when I give you the cue to call. Tickets to the Boise Music Festival. We go to Al in Ontario at 580 KIDO.
Good morning. Yeah. Yesterday, Bob said that Iran didn't use any hypersonic missiles. They've been doing nothing but using hypersonic missiles, during this whole conflict. So my suggestion to Bob would be stop watching Seinfeld reruns and take a couple hours and just learn a little bit about hypersonic missiles, hypersonic glide vehicles, hypersonic cruise missiles, the types of interceptors that are used, the layering of the interceptors. Understand a little bit about, these things because they're very important for our nation. Unfortunately, nobody knows anything about it. I talk to military people all the time, and they don't know anything about it. But I did talk to one guy who just came out of the Pentagon. I talked to him yesterday, actually. And, we had a great conversation, about, the problems that we're having. And, hopefully we get these things straightened out. But unfortunately, we don't live in a nation that understands the system of logic, right? So my suggestion would be to read the book, A System of Logic, Ratiocinative and Inductive by John Stuart Mill, so that you understand, how to think in a methodical, step-by-step, logical, reasoning manner. Okay? And you can do so in a sequitur manner. And when you do that, what you're going to find is that, you have a much better outcomes. And us as a nation, our nation will have better outcomes when we have people that can actually think in rational terms and don't use intuition and emotions and all these other things, to make decisions, which is what happens today. What we have now, look at California. Look at this. I mean, who's running that place? Socialist, opportunist, statists, Marxist, cowards, communist, freaks, and simpletons. Okay, that's really what we have. And unfortunately, it's not just California. It's virtually everywhere. We have these islands. Okay, we have these islands in America. Okay, the Treasure Valley. Okay, Idaho, that's an island. Okay, look at these are the last refuges, and they're going away unless we can gain backbones. Unless we can stop and really say to ourselves, wait a minute, this is socialism gone crazy. This is losership. Okay, this is people trying to rearrange the grand chessboard so that we have world socialism. We don't make the things that we need to make anymore. And that's the problem. We need to have these hypersonic missiles. We need to have a workforce that can actually make things, and that we don't have to rely on China for our medicines, rely on China for everything. But unfortunately, we have a country where we have goofy 2-bit communist judges who countermand the president. I mean, we have all these crazy, legal grievance insurance industrial complex that just completely wreaks havoc on this country, and all they really do is engage in rent seeking. We've got this. We churn this money inside, and we don't produce very much. So we got to go back to producing things. I mean, it's like it should be as clear as the nose on your face. But the problem is we have this totalitarian government, okay? And it has total economic control. It has total economic control. They got the money machine. What does it mean when you have total economic control? What does that mean? It means they control the means to all of our ends. That's what it means. It's total socialism. Okay? And anybody who thinks it's anything other than that, okay, well, look, you need to go back to the books. And well, we got to yell about, the grocery tax, a few cents on the grocery tax. Come on, man. Learn to prioritize. You have the inflation tax. Why is everything going so high? Because we're paying for tens of millions of illegals, and we can't build hypersonic missiles, and we can't build factories, and we can't build factories.
Yeah, but we are building factories now.
Oh yeah, sure we are. Yeah. No. The other countries. Look, why is it? Okay, you have Chobani coming to the United States.
Chobani.
You got Chobani coming to the United States to make a plant. Where are the Americans?
At the Chobani plant in Idaho.
Let me tell you, where are the Americans who are?
Wait a minute. I just answered your question. At the Chobani plant in Idaho, in Twin Falls, buddy.
Look, you got Chobani. He comes in here,
Mr. Chobani, to you.
And he comes in here and he does things. He makes things happen. He actually makes stuff. Okay, where are the Americans? We're all doing financialized BS. Okay,
I don't really understand it. I've answered your question, and now whatever, Mr. Chobani. I think Mr. Chobani's like an American citizen now. He's of Turkish descent. He believes in the American dream, and he's done a lot of good things in Twin Falls, buddy.
Right. What I'm saying is, where are look at it. What I'm saying is, we're a nation of Americans, and we don't have Americans that could do that.
We're Americans. You know what we are? We're Americans of socialism, because all our businesses, whether it's SpaceX or whatever, is subsidized by the government. So you're footing the bill, you and Uncle Sugar.
Look at, man, Uncle Sugar has put the smackdown on a free nation, and unfortunately, we can't compete anymore. That's the problem. Okay, so what we have to do here is confront reality. Okay, I'm not here to blow sunshine up people's skirts, right? That's not me, Kevin. I'm here to tell the truth. And the truth is something that's very, very difficult for people to digest because, look, they've been bamboozled for so long. They've been bamboozled for so long, it hurts. It hurts when the truth. They have all this cognitive dissonance in their mind. Okay? Oh, how could this happen? You can't trust these freaks. Okay? Oh, well, let's be nice to them. Well, let's talk. Okay, what was that? Okay. Is that something? Hello. Okay, yeah, just wondering, in the spirit of Marco Rubio, is this a Kevin Miller show or is this a circus?
It is. It's more of a circus, sadly.
Okay, well, it is what it is, but, hey, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. This is the American way. So what we have to do is we have to realize there are no easy ways out, okay? And we had Mike yesterday calling up. I love Mike.
Dude,
Okay,
Mike
but
called
he's
you out and said that you need to learn your stuff. In other words, we had Mike and Tea Party Bob saying you don't know anything.
Well, yeah. So, okay. So, look. So, what does Mike use? He used Deming. Okay. Kevin Miller's father and me, we understand exactly what Deming was all about, total quality management. The late 80s and the early 90s in the Air Force. Okay.
That guy, yeah. I'll tell you, that guy. Ooh.
Yeah, we understand what kind of idiocy that was. And after they started crashing jets, what happened? Okay, oh, well, we don't need that anymore, right? But the whole thing is, there's no miracle cure. There's no secret passage. There's no magic passwords, okay? No, you can't pull a rabbit out of a hat. It's hard work. It's discipline. That's what's always worked. When we look at the world, what do we have to say to ourselves? We understand non-living things through math. We understand living things through analogies of history. That's how we have to look at things. That's the lens that we should understand our world, not by leverage points or some of this other idiocy, because it's nothing but psychobabble. And we've been losing and losing and losing by trying to take the easy way out. And the easy way is always the loser way. Okay, there's nothing easy in this world. And when we try and do that,
I don't even know where this is going, man.
Well, look, I'm just responding to him talking about Danella Meadows and leverage points. I take a few minutes to actually let's see. Here's the thing. I talk about things, and what I'm saying is hopefully people will take a few minutes, like Bob, to learn about hypersonic missiles so that he can talk intelligently about it.
So we've learned that Bob and Mike are nitwits. All right, thank you for the call. Al, man, that was a lot. Why don't we do this? Let's have a palate cleanse. Caller 10-580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're going to win those tickets to the Boise Music Festival, courtesy of our friends. We'll give it to them. Window World Boise, windowworldboise.com, the sponsor of this portion of the Kevin Miller program on 580-KIDO. What have we learned? In California, only 58% of the votes have been counted, so we have a problem there. They're going to try to steal it from Steve Hilton. We know that. The Save America Act could have saved California, but you have a lot of squishy Republicans that don't want to save America, and they're turning on the president. That's really what we're going to see coming up very soon, is how many people are going to turn on the president. And what I mean by that is there were a lot of people that were reluctant to hang out with President Trump. There were a lot of people that were reluctant to embrace him. And especially in 2016, in 2020, I thought he was done after the rebellion. I thought he was done after all the lawsuits. He proved me wrong. He proved everybody wrong. He continues to be back. He continues to fight. And yet now, after the midterms, is he going to have any stroke? One person who is not a fan of the president and a low-class individual is Nancy Pelosi.
Hi, Congresswoman Pelosi. Last time I asked you about January 6th, why you turned the National Guard away on January 6th, you told me to shut up and that I was repeating Republican talk.
To shut up again because you're speaking lies. And I don't have anything to do
You're
with
right
it.
here on record saying,
no,
I'll
shut up.
admit it.
No, I did not admit it. The president never would agree to send the National Guard. Don't waste your time or mine on you.
Why was your daughter filming you on January 6th?
Why don't you get away?
These are just questions the American people want answers to.
No, you know what? I don't even think you're a real journalist. You work for Mike the Pillow Man?
Actually, I do, and we're very proud.
Don't consider that journalism. Mike the Pillow Man, that's not journalism. I don't have any reason to talk to you.
He'd love to give you a free
I
pillow.
want you to record this. I want people to know that you're not a real journalist. You mark for Mike the Pillow Man, and all you do is spout untruths.
Okay.
Get away from me.
You can insult me all you want,
Get away from me.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Well, so here you have, let's see, what's her name? Allison in the Know on Twitter. And Nancy Pelosi's mad. Donald Trump is back. She's on the run. California is being, the lead vote getter in California is a Republican. The lead vote getter the second lead vote getter in Los Angeles is an independent because they've ruined it. She's like the grand dame, the grand queen. Maybe if you've watched Dutton Ranch, she's the Annette Funicello character. I know it's Annette Denning or whatever her name is, Warren Beatty's wife. The female Kevin Costner. Again, we've turned. I mean, the Dutton Ranch has turned Yellowstone a great, iconic, patriarchal film, TV series where the guy is the guy, into the Dutton Ranch where the alpha is the female. So here you have Nancy Pelosi, who is trying to turn it over to Hakeem the Nightmare, to her nephew, Gallivanting Gavin. She's in her 80s. Like a lot of people in our 80s, her plumbing probably doesn't work as efficiently. There's, things we all deal with, hemorrhoids, all sorts of things, right? There's nothing wrong with saying you have hemorrhoids or you have a bad back or whatever. I mean, for 95, she looks pretty good. I mean, remember her in the swimsuit. I know she's not 95, and I don't know if she has hemorrhoids, but the probability, at that age, things break down. So this is the new age. Here you have somebody mid-20s to mid-30s. Anybody can have a news organization. Mike Lindell, who's been through the ringer. Mike Lindell, who continues to go on. They've canceled him everywhere. Has this TV network, and this is not a responsible public servant. If you do not want to be questioned by the media, then step down as a member of Congress. We'll get back to that in a minute. Do we have a winner, Bo? Yes, we do. Congratulations, Chris. Congratulations, Chris, winning those Boise Music Festival tickets. Here again is Nancy Pelosi having a bad day.
About January 6th, why you turned the National Guard away on January 6th. You told me to shut up and that I was repeating Republican talk.
To shut up again because you're speaking lies. And I don't have anything to do
You're
with
right
it.
here on the record saying,
no,
I'll
shut up.
admit it.
No, I did not admit it. The president never would agree to send the National Guard. Don't waste your time or mine on you.
Why was your daughter filming you on January 6th?
Why don't you get away?
These are just questions the American people want answers to.
No, you know what? I don't even think you're a real journalist. You work for Mike the Pillow Man?
Actually, I do, and we're very proud.
I don't consider that journalism. Mike the Pillow Man, that's not journalism. I don't have any reason to talk to you.
He'd love to give you a free
pillow. I
pillow.
want you to record this. I want people to know that you're not a real journalist. You mark for Mike the Pillow Man, and all you do is spout untruths.
Okay.
Get away from me.
You can insult me all you want,
Get away from me.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Yeah.
We'll give you my pillow so you can have a nice sleep tonight, okay?
We're going to give you a nice Mike Pillow Man pillow so you can sleep good tonight because, quite frankly, dear friends, here's the issue. The National Guard, who was responsible, who benefited, it was the liberals. And, man, here you have somebody from the Lindell tree. They don't have to be nice to anybody. They don't have to worry about getting credentialed. So how it works and how you see these run and gun interviews is I believe you have to be credentialed through the Senate, House, radio, television, probably digital thing now, whatever they're calling it. There is a credentialing process, but literally, and I'm trying to think, last time I was there, you could just literally walk the halls. So if you walk the halls, you can run into Mike Johnson. You can run into all of these people. I don't want to say they're sitting ducks, but I'm saying they are accessible. They don't like being accessible. So, and I think you have to be credentialed. For those of you that have been to Congress, if you haven't, there is the underground train, the little tranny thing. So you have to go through security for that, which I think takes you to, I don't know, the House to the Senate or something like that. Yes, because again, there is the rotunda, but there's not a lot of offices in the rotunda, so most of them are in different office buildings. So if you are in the Russell building or the Kirk building or whatever the building is, you could take the little tranny over so you're not seen. But once you get up there and you're going in and blah, blah, blah through your offices, you're fair game. And security can't touch you and nobody can touch you. You're allowed to ask these questions. I think it's legitimate. I think it's unfortunate that you have, and let me apologize in advance, Sourpuss Pelosi being very rude to this lady who was wearing a very provocative short skirt, but I guess that's the style these days, and saying, hey, what about the National Guard? Why don't you do this? Would you like to apologize for telling me to shut up? Something to think about. And, they didn't get Mike Lindell. And if you don't figuratively or literally kill the king, then the king is coming for you, and it's not looking good, as we've seen. Amazing. By the way, locally, a story that is percolating now. I do want to thank our source that sent this to me. We were talking a little locally yesterday, the local headlines. Boise raising taxes, Meridian raising taxes, Nampa looking for a mayor, Caldwell, you have the police chief on one side, you have the mayor on the other, and then you have the drip, drip, drip leaks trying to make the mayor look bad. Mayor Phillips, I like the mayor. I think he's a good dude. And I'll say this, I support him. I support the mayor. And I hate it when you have people that are trying to, again, they don't like the change. They don't like the accountability. They don't like the fact that, this mayor actually listens to people. This mayor actually goes out and hears what people has to say. And if things were so great, you would have not had the lawsuits, the settlements, the controversy in Caldwell. When Biden was running against Trump, we had the clash in Caldwell. But there's conflicts in Caldwell again and again and again. And that is unfortunate. And you see the media being played like useful idiots for, you leak a story and then all of a sudden you don't get the other side of it. Shame on them. Shame on them, if you will. Coming up, more of your phone calls and something that is at one time we hailed. I know Kent Goldthorpe was very proud of this. Data centers, it ain't looking good for us.
Data centers are expected to account for nearly 3% of the world's projected electricity use in just the next 4 years. That is according to a new United Nations report. It comes as voters in a city near Los Angeles approve a first-of-its-kind measure to ban the construction of data centers. Other localities are passing temporary restrictions on the facilities.
You wonder about that and whether or not we would do that in Idaho. No, we wouldn't, because we sell out to the highest bidder, and we're all about, what do they call that? We're all about business, business, business. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Gosh, I hate that ding. I really wish we could let that, we could fix that. Anyway, back to the local stories here at 580-KIDO. So in Nampa, you've got a problem. On Monday, they're going to try and figure out who's going to be the mayor of Nampa. Does that impact a lot of people? And again, I pray for the soul of Rick Hogeboom every night. I pray for his family. What a loss. And in the West, I think people matter more. There's not a lot of people. You think it takes, 5,000-10,000 people to be elected mayor in Nampa? I was looking at the congressional races in Montana. 10,000 people voted, maybe 20,000 to elect a congressman on the Republican and Democratic side. That's not a lot of people. And then you take a look at who's going to be the mayor of Nampa. You have our friend, former Mayor Debbie Kling. She volunteered to do it. They said, nope. Then you had, I think, the chief of staff. He wanted to do it, and they said, nope. And then none of the city council people apparently want to do it. So nobody's getting the votes. So apparently Monday they're going to decide, or maybe they'll continue on. Maybe they just won't have a mayor. Maybe Mayor Kling, who voluntarily decided not to run, maybe they don't like her. If they did, wouldn't they have voted to bring her back just as a stabilizing force? And you take a look at Mayor Kling, who we've had a great relationship with, maybe she didn't want to do it anymore. And they're thinking, well, you stepped down or you chose not to run. Why bring you back? Who's going to be the mayor of Nampa? Idaho's third largest city. Pretty important job. And a job that needs a lot of leadership. And the scary part about this is that if you were elected by the will of the people, you'd have, what do they call that, a mandate, some stroke. if you're appointed by the city council, how does that impact the budgetary debates that are going on? And you take a look at the counties, take at the cities. That's why Boise is raising taxes. Please, Ada County, don't raise any more taxes. Please, to our friends at the Ada County Commissioner, the only politicians that listen, please don't raise taxes. Don't be like Boise. Last year, if you lived in Ada County, you got the double whammy. You got the taxes being raised by Boise, taxes being raised by the county. I'm sure Meridian did as well. And then you think, is there a tax haven? CUNA, growth there. Star, growth there. It's just ridiculous. And maybe it's all the people that are coming in from these tax and spend states that are bringing their tax and spend politicians. We have that story for you on our website, though. There's no excuse. You take a look at, the mayor of Meridian and the state of the city. Well, if you want to keep ahead, you've got to do this. Hey, man, how about doing more with less? How about taking a look at, the people that haven't had pay raises that are paying the taxes? How about taking a look at the people that are actually losing money because they haven't had a raise? Does anybody give a rip about them, or are we just too busy building one big gym or retail center that no one will be able to afford things at, and then we'll have a bunch of empty retail spaces? Where's the intelligent growth? Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Nampa looks for a mayor. Caldwell has the controversy, and Boise and Meridian raising your taxes. Does anybody buy that need to raise taxes? With all the building going on, we always talk about impact fees. We always discuss whether or not, growth pays for itself. Growth really doesn't pay for itself. You know who pays for growth? Us. What was that song by Limp Bizkit? Like a chump, hey, like a chump, hey, like a chump, hey. I don't believe that if you live in any of these cities, you're a chump. And it's funny because they have these royal decrees. Now, I always thought like the State of the Union or the State of the State was something, but maybe it's unique to this area. Maybe it isn't. The State of the City. And then you have a bunch of people that are sycophants, a bunch of people that, well, I have to be nice. Hello, everyone. Oh, we're going to get more taxes being raised. Goody, 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 goody. And as I point out in the article on our website, KIDOtalkradio.com, where is the opposition? Where is the opposition? How much money is going to the refugee community? Are those Boise tax dollars going there? How much money is going to the free buses for people this summer? How much money is going to buying higher-priced electric vehicles rather than affordable gasoline-powered vehicles? How much money is going to paying off people that have left and getting golden parachutes? But without a partisan or nonpartisan look at things, this is how it is. It's just going to be more of the same. And it's not easy, but we have a lot of people that are retired. We have a lot of people that are independently wealthy and are looking for something to do. I would urge you to start a taxpayer organization. And you could do it at the state level as well. Mike and his AI probably could help you with that, but the city of Boise, what really is the money being spent on? And I know you've got your ATV and you've got your beer and everything else, but in reality, this is big stuff. This is big, important news. 3% last year, 3% this year. Maybe we should find a way where they can only raise taxes 1%. And you throw in the retroactive thing, it's crazy. It is crazy. Those are the local stories we're following. And then you come back to in Nampa, who wants to be mayor of Nampa? Before that, we go to Josh Bolton. You remember him, or John Bolton, thank you, former ambassador, has pled guilty to breaking the law.
I think a lot of these documents he may have just thought were cool. A lot of them he thought might be souvenirs. A lot of them he thought might be useful to him later. I can't answer the question until I see the document. But Well, there are a lot of theories that he could use it as information against his enemies, that he could give it to people in exchange for favors. We don't know, and frankly, I don't think speculating about the reasons is all that helpful. The simple fact he had the documents, for any reason or no reason, should subject him to prosecution.
How do you think this ends for the former president?
Well, I think if I were an innocent person, if I were Donald Trump and I were innocent, I'd be saying, I want this insult to my integrity, I use these words loosely, removed as soon as possible. I'm prepared to waive a lot of frivolous procedural motions. I want to go to trial in the next 60 days. I don't want to drag this out. I'm innocent. I can prove it. Let's go. Does anybody think Donald Trump's really going to do that? I hope the Justice Department really does try for a speedy trial, because frankly, the sooner it goes to a jury and we find out their answer, whatever that answer is going to be, the better for the country.
Yeah, there we have it. John Bolton just pled guilty there, talking about President Trump. By the way, there's an online video apparently going very viral. Out of control robot karate kicker kicks child in stomach while performing martial arts. Veteran actor James Handy fatally stabbed by girlfriend's son. You might remember him from Top Gun Maverick. Let's go to the phones, and Subaru Jerry joins us now at 580 KIDO. Hello, Subaru Jerry. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Hey, Kevin, what would you say if I told you that you may be unknowingly buying into the multi-billion-dollar communist Chinese propaganda program to dissuade the American public from accepting AI data centers in the United States of America?
I would call you Kevin O'Leary.
Okay. Is that your final answer?
It is, because that is his take on people opposing him in Utah.
But you do know that the Chinese are executing a multi-billion-dollar propaganda campaign to turn the public against AI data centers, don't you?
No.
Why would they be doing that? It was on the news.
Well, if you believe Kevin O'Leary, it's so they can own it themselves.
Well, I'm not so sure that AI is totally a bad thing.
I think my problem with AI is that the data centers are going to, use up all of our electricity. And, you talk about jobs. This thing in Utah is double the size of Manhattan, and they're going to use up a ton of energy and a ton of water. What's the plan for that? Just a thought.
Maybe that just goes to promote the idea of nuclear power.
That's what some would say.
Well, what's wrong with that? We should have been doing that all along.
I'm on your team here, Jerry. I don't know why you're coming at me. I just think that they're, don't really know how to answer that one. Sure. But take a look at, since data centers have come into Idaho, how much more we are paying for electricity.
Well, nobody was crying too much when they were putting in all these solar panel farms, were they?
Oh, now you keep changing the argument, aren't you?
No, it's a similar argument.
Well, fair enough, Subaru Jerry. You get the last word. What would you like to say?
Okay. Well, I'd like to say that whenever there might be a problem, there could be a solution. So if we don't like them sucking the water out of the Snake River in our ground table, then why don't we build a couple of nuclear power plants, use the water more efficiently? We know how to do that. We know how to use the water and then return it and generate power with nuclear. Then you can power your AI power plants and the big casino development down by Mountain Home all at the same time.
Well, sounds like you have everything figured out.
Well, I majored in geography in college, so part of our stuff was planning. And it's obvious to me since I moved to Nampa, they've hired no planners.
Job growth continues to grow in May, shattering expectations. Leisure, hospitality, government, healthcare, construction, transportation, information, finance, all up. And you're thinking leisure and hospitality, transportation, construction. Why would there be jobs added in that? Could it be that perhaps the president's immigration program opening up more jobs for Americans? Well, never thought about that one. Something to think about. What have we learned so far today? Boise raising taxes, Meridian raising taxes, Nampa seeks a new mayor, and of course, the controversy, the clash in Caldwell. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up, we'll talk a little bit about this Maine Democrat, Graham Platter, and why he would never work in Idaho. And again, more of your calls about the stories that impact you with me, Kevin Miller. And yes, another chance to win tickets to the Boise Music Festival. That's right, the Boise Music Festival. A family 4-pack could be yours if you're the correct caller. Caller 10. Boom, boom, boom. At the big 5, at the big 8, at the big O. Caller 10 when we give you the cue to call. By the way, it's National Donut Day. And if you like donuts, have another one. Some donut places actually giving free donuts. Not a bad gig if you can get it. Here's something that's interesting. It is Pride Month. YMCA in the Navy. Macho Man. Remember that? You know, those guys. You know, there was nothing wrong with a group of dudes, construction worker, police officer, the seamen in the Navy. Nothing wrong with those guys just hanging out, right? You remember the Village People. Obviously, YMCA, Macho Man, you know, you're working out in the gym. Nothing wrong with that. And, you know, who would know? It was like the worst kept secret ever that they were gay. They liked the boys, right? They liked the boys. And then you think to yourself, my goodness gracious. Okay. And then you had the whole gay rights movement and the flags, and Boise is a welcoming city and whatever that means. So on Harrison Boulevard, even though it's against the law, they're going to have the flags. Turn that down a little, Sweet William. You know, when you hear the lyrics of this song, it's hard to believe that this is a bunch of guys that like guys. To me, it's just people just wanting to have a good time, right? They want to check out your body. They weren't very muscular. They were like skinnies. I can't see people in their big trucks listening to this. Can you? Nothing wrong with it. Wait for it. Harrison Boulevard. Mayor McLean. I can picture her right now dancing to this. With her little antennas on. As you see her skipping during the Pride Parade. It's such a captivating beat. Anyway, let's take a look at this. So the flag debate, even though it's a flag pole debate, continues in Boise. From published reports, a Boise resident military veteran, Jordan Hall, applied to display pride flags along Harrison Boulevard, but was denied by the city, citing an agreement with the North End Neighborhood Association. The city wrapped its flagpoles in rainbow colors after taking down the City Hall pride flags due to a new state law. Hall believes the city has the authority to approve his display and is hopeful the flags could still go up in June. In the meantime, a grassroots group called North End Pride has been distributing free pride flags and yard signs for residents to display on private property. So we'll see if the flags come back. You know, regardless of this, we hope that we have people, how should we put this, that we have people that actually fly American flags. So this one from Channel 6+1. Pride flags are missing from Boise's Harrison Boulevard this June. One man applied to bring them back. He said, and now no one agrees who gets to decide. Well, it is state law. State law says that you cannot have these flags, and yet you have people saying, we don't care about the state law. Got to give it to the city, saying, no, you can't do this, because, again, they would be in the wrong. Private property, again, it's a tough one, if you will. But let's take a look at, just for entertainment purposes only, to see how this one was covered. And again and again and again, does anybody really care about this? I think it's important. This is from Aspen Shumpert from Channel 6+1.
Volunteers that put the flags up each year.
Yeah, I'm part of the LGBTQ community. I identify as a gay man. I've always felt very welcomed here.
In 2025, Idaho passed a flag law prohibiting government agencies from flying certain flags on government property. But it didn't list any penalties if agencies didn't comply, which is why the city of Boise continued flying the pride flag at City Hall.
I think most people in the city applauded the mayor and the city for standing up last year.
But this past session, lawmakers closed that gap, adding financial penalties. Boise took its flag down in March, the day Governor Brad Little signed it into law. Days later, the city instead wrapped City Hall poles with the pride colors.
We are very grateful for what the city has done to the poles outside of City Hall, but it's not the same.
So Hall set out to keep the flags flying on Harrison Boulevard, where the poles are also city-owned. In April, Hall submitted 2 separate temporary display requests with the city's Parks Department.
The city approved the ribbons on the trees, but not the flags on the poles. Hall thinks the city got it wrong.
In a statement to KTVB, the city says flags on Harrison Boulevard are placed at the discretion of the North End Neighborhood Association. And a memorandum of understanding between the city and the Neighborhood Association, dated June 27, 2025, says NENA can only fly city flags or flags allowed by the state. Donna Llewellyn, president of NENA, tells us flying the pride flag was never NENA's decision to make, and they've previously been hung by local volunteers. Hall points to that same MOU, which now spells out a process for anyone other than NENA requesting a flag display.
NENA's MOU state.
Dude, I can't take this story. I mean, this is why people move to Idaho. This is a big deal. The flags, well, there is no flag. So we could go back to that, or we could listen to this delectable delight from the old days. Yeah, can't we all just sing the Village People and have a good time? But no, we're going to violate the state law, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I don't know, man. We have other things to worry about. Pleasure? Boys? Hey now. Skin dive? C's. E's. Stand. Land. Dude, that biker. Disturbing looking dude, man. Disturbing looking dude. If you're not familiar with this, just go to YouTube, In the Navy, Village People, official music video. You have to laugh at these things because life is too short to get so angry. So state law said no flags. Now we have a story. Now, was that really perpetrated by this gentleman, or was that perpetrated because we were looking to fill time and promote an ideological agenda? I mean, if you want to tie ribbons around a tree, so be it. If you want to do, and here's the other thing. Maybe I'm just a mush. Maybe I'm, overly sensitive. Maybe I have the sissy word E, empathy. But what happens if you don't agree with the rainbow flag? Are you not welcome? To me, when you start doing things like that outside the American flag, it's exclusionary. If you're not down with this, it's a total counter argument to the mayor's whole pitch about, well, we want to show people that we're welcoming cities. Okay, so what happens if your faith disagrees with it? Are you not welcoming? Are you a bigot? Are you anti this? I mean, that's the whole thing. That's the whole vibe. It's anti. Well, no, my faith says I have to behave this way, and I should love the sinner and hate the sin. Does that make me a bad person? And again, you have ideologues in the city of Boise and other places that, you either are compelled to genuflect before their idols, or you're a bad person. So here we have this story. There's not going to be any flags on Harrison Boulevard. I'm sure there would be, they'll survive, number one. Number two, if you don't like it, change the state law. Oh, that's right. The state of Idaho is actually the exact opposite of the city of Boise. How's that, Kevin Miller? Well, the city of Boise, you have a very liberal, tax and spend, progressive mayor along with her accomplices on the city council, except for Lucy Willits. They're going to pass things that the majority of the state do not agree with. In fact, you have people in the state, and the mayor goes, oh, it's not easy being the mayor in this red state. She's taking shots at our friend, the attorney general, our friends in the legislature, whatever. But in Idaho, the flag that the state flies is the American flag, not the multicolored rainbow flag. It's the exact opposite. And as I've said before, and the city never does this. In fact, it was this program. It was you and with your old friend, Silly Millie, that we were the only ones that brought back the 4th of July parade. And then when we had the original sponsors come up to us and say, we want to go with you, Kevin Miller. And I said, look, we're busy with the Boise Music Festival. Let's give other people the opportunity to do this. So, again, just like Fox News, just like everything else, people come to us first. I don't really say that because it's too inside, but it is true. The organizers came to us first because they recognized that it wasn't anybody else in town except a dedicated group of volunteers and Kevin Miller that said, why doesn't Boise have a 4th of July parade? I was the co-grand marshal at one year. That's when Mayor Beater was involved. Let's go to David DeHaas. We like to call him the cleanser.
Paid for by Living Waters Wellness Center.
I guess we can't call you Mr. Clean, but what up, G?
Well, hey, you know what? We love a good miracle, and watching miracles Living Waters is a lot of fun. Christy had a bone spur surgery 3 years ago, but her foot was still in pain, really tough to walk. After the 10-day cleanse, for the first time in 3 years, her foot no longer hurts. Tim saw us a year ago, had parasites, a lot of parasites. He wrote me this last Monday and said, thank you, I'm doing great. After getting rid of the parasites, and thanks to Living Waters, I now know how to tap into the spiritual assistance. That's a big win. Our 10-day retreat helps you not only physically, but also mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. A recipe is simple. Clean the colon, clean the small intestine, clean the blood, and then give the body the perfect nutrition. Top it off with the mental, emotional, and spiritual tools, and you have the ability to a healing miracle. You can learn more at livingwaterscleanse.com. Watch the video, The 4 Natural Laws of Healing, or call 208-378-9911. And this Sunday at 9 a.m. on the Whole Body Detox Show, right here on KIDO, Congress has a really bad bill called Precision Agriculture. It's a disaster heading towards us like a tornado. My guest uncovers the cause of stunted growth in our food crops, in our cows. Every farmer who grows crops, cows, and produces milk, and gardeners too, need to hear the solution. Nothing here is meant to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease. So you got a qualified health professional to see if cleansing is right for you.
David DeHaas, we appreciate that. I know you're a big fan of the mayor, and you're looking forward to more taxes being raised in the city of Boise there, buddy.
Yeah, that's what, when they came out with that published report, the Idaho Freedom Foundation years ago, and we looked at all the money they're giving to her nonprofits. Every nonprofit minimum that she liked got $5,000. Some, even the Shakespeare Festival, it's been going on for 30 years, got like $1 million that year. So we got a lot of money going in nonprofits, and that's not right. That's not their role. And then, of course, as you know, she took away the rights for us to contest any conditional use permit. They took away that process, and now towers can go anywhere, even 20 feet from your bedroom, and that's not good. That's dangerous.
And you will cover all that and more this Sunday at 9. Anything else you'd like to share with us there, big boy?
The farmers, you got to be listening to this show. This is very serious. This is very serious for our produce and the crop yields and the cows. And, you better listen to the show. You need this data.
David DeHaas, Sunday at 9. Thank you, sir.
You got it. Thank you, Kevin.
Paid for by Living Waters Wellness Center.
And you too have a blessed day. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning, brought to you by our friends at Team Mazda as we look around and get ready for, obviously, the Boise Music Festival just around the corner. Your chance to win a family 4-pack just by being caller 10 when we give you the cue to call. But life was a lot easier when we just had a bunch of boys wanting you to join the Navy, right? I mean, it was an easy time. These guys aren't talking about the flag. They're talking about the American flag, the Navy flag. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Boys. I have a request, and I apologize for this. We're talking about a serious topic. I hope the city of Boise embraces the American flag with half as much vim and vitriol as they do the pride flag. But, dear Godless Corporation, please, next year, could we bring in the Village People to Boise Music Festival? I think I'm going to start a petition to bring in the boys. I know I don't think there's any original member of the Village People, but, we got Marshmallow this year. We've had Pitbull and Jelly Roll and, Buttered Roll and, Semi-Roll and Roly Poly, but these guys would be the best ever, would they not? I mean, everybody would. I mean, they'd only have to do 3 songs. They'd only have to do 3 songs. Macho Man, YMCA, and In the Navy. Nothing wrong with a bunch of guys talking about hanging out, skin diving, and sailing the 7 seas. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO.
KIDO Talk Radio.
The Village People. I don't know what you're going to do with a submarine. I mean, you could have Boise Mayor wearing a sailor outfit. And then the Meridian Mayor dressed up like the Commodore. I mean, I think maybe in honor of Pride Month, we could have all of our mayors, since we're not going to get the Village People this year for the Boise Music Festival, why don't we do this one? This would be, I think this is very doable and very creative. You could have, Meridian is pro the rainbow. You have Boise that's pro the rainbow. You could basically have a celebrity lip sync dancing contest to this. Security guard Mike, he could get out his old Navy outfit, We could have somebody dress up as Popeye the Sailor Man. I know it's silly. and it's ridiculous, but what do you want to do? Start screaming and yelling about this? I do love the idea of bringing in the Village People next year. We're gonna start a petition with that. I truly am. What's that? Oh, since we're talking about the flag and everything else, at 580-5436. What's that, Kevin Miller? You cannot talk about the Village People without playing the greatest song of all time. The President Trump theme song. Again, one that doesn't get old. Where were you when you played this one?
Young man, there's no need to feel down. Pick yourself off the ground. I said, young man, 'cause you're in a new town. There's no need to
Tea Party Bob.
unhappy.
Al in Ontario.
There's a place you can go.
That's a better idea. That's a better idea. We bring in the Miller Militia Classics, Tea Party Bob, Patriot Ray, Jim from the Star, Al in Ontario, maybe Brian from Nampa. I'm sure I'm leaving people out. And we have them dressed up as the Village People. and we do it as a fundraiser. I don't know for whom, but it's just very silly songs. And obviously, unfortunately or fortunately, there's a double meaning to it. Back in the day when, you had the Closet Nation, now conservatives are in the closet. But I'm trying to think of, and we could actually have a showdown between the mayor of Boise, the mayor of Meridian, and all their accomplices dressed up as the Village People. Kind of like, what is it? Idaho's Got Talent. Who can really, really, really channel the vibe of the Village People?
Hey, young man, when you're short on your dough, you can't stay there. And I'm sure you will find many ways to have a good time. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. They have everything for your men to enjoy. You can hang out with all the boys. It's fun to stay at
Oh, that's right. Liberal Steve's favorite part, hanging out with the boys. Anyway, at 580-5436, that is our Boise Pride Flag Report brought to you by the Village People. Classic songs, Macho Man, In the Navy, and of course, YMCA. I like that idea. I like the idea of bringing them to the Boise Music Festival. In fact, again, caller 10, you're going to win that family 4-pack. But like I said, sometimes you just got to laugh. Can you imagine, what was that Disco 54 or whatever that famous disco was in New York City that we always heard about? Tea Party Bob in his polyester. Exactly. Tea Party Bob in his polyester doing that. Okay, enough silliness. 580-KIDO, let's get you to work safely and on time. And House Joint Resolution 6 in Idaho is being debated. The proposed amendments aiming to regulate the drug legalization and make English the official language of the state of Idaho. The Legislative Council meeting to discuss these issues was held with minimal public notice and was not recorded or archived. Ooh, unlike other legislative meetings, some lawmakers are calling for more transparency and recording of future meetings to ensure public access for discussions. By the way, I guess the weed people, they got enough here. We'll see what happens. I love this idea of the official language. Members of the Idaho Legislative Council Thursday. Does the legislature's job ever end? Maybe if you're retired, maybe if you're wealthy, maybe if you're committed or should be committed, you're a member of the legislature. But man, that's a lot, dude. Let's see. Describe 2 proposed amendments to the Idaho Constitution that will go into effect or go before voters during the November election. I wonder if there's going to be a lot of money spent to keep the weed out of Idaho. That's going to be an interesting debate, if you will, because if I'm the purveyors of the pot in Ontario or Orgeron, Oregon, I don't want any type of legalization in Idaho. I don't. Because all that money that Oregon's making, done. Another reason to say no, Idaho, to protect the drug use in Oregon. The legislative, and by the way, to our people in Eastern Oregon, we love you. I wish Liberation Day was coming for you. I wish somehow that we could liberate you. See, initially I just thought about liberating Ontario. But you folks in Eastern Oregon, Middle Oregon, everything outside of Portland, that has to stink. Outside of Salem, that has to really stink to be in that state where you agree with the people of Idaho, you agree with the values of our state, and yet you're outnumbered again and again and again. Very unfortunate for you. And you listen to 580 KIDO with our increased signal so we could serve you even better. Appreciate your support. I wish there was something that we could do for you. Coming up, a politician says that he was a bad boyfriend. Nobody likes bad boyfriends, even if you like the bad boys. Also, caller 10, why don't we do this now at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're going to win that family 4-pack to the Boise Music Festival, courtesy of our friends at Team Mazda, the sponsor of this portion of the Kevin Miller program. So who is this Idaho Legislative Council? They're a powerful group of Republican and Democrats responsible for overseeing the management responsibilities of the legislature. I thought that was the Secretary of State's job. Let's see. They approved the ballot language for the 2 proposed amendments that were put forth by Republican legislators. Joint Resolution 1 would amend the Idaho Constitution so that only Idaho legislature has the authority to legalize marijuana. Yes. Yes. Boom. House Resolution 6 would amend the Constitution so that English would be the official language. I guess that goes before the voters, but I like that idea. Sorry, no weed for you. You people in Oregon, you can keep your weed. We're going to keep it out. Another thing that's very concerning to me is gambling. Many of you understand there's a guy that was okay as an NFL guy. I guess he was an all-pro. Pat McAfee. And Mr. McAfee is an interesting character because he does not do radio, but he does the YouTube. And a guy with marginal NFL talent is an extraordinary megastar in the new world of digital, smidgital, and everything else. I don't even think the guy's 40 yet. And he has really co-opted traditional news items by embracing betting, among many things. Gifted guy, keeps his show in Indianapolis. Very close to a lot of people here in Idaho. Very close to a lot of people here in Idaho. And, if you're a friend of Mr. McAfee, he's an incredible person to be friends with, if you will. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, you take a look at his new endeavor, and it's all about betting. And it's going to be on ESPN. And he's going to, have a game show kind of like Family Feud. But you're actually going to be able to bet on the outcomes of things as it's happening. By the way, thank you for that, sweet William. Chuck Pagano, who I believe lives here locally, has family here, helps out Boise State, does everything else, is very close. He was the coach of Pat McAfee And Coach Pagano is always on McAfee's show in Indianapolis. By the way, congratulations to Pierce for winning those tickets. So my point being with Pat McAfee is and if you listen to sports radio, which is basically FanDuel or DraftKings or Bet on This or Bet MGM, I think it's devalued the entire genre. In fact, there is one network that is merged with Bet MGM. And there are a couple things in life that, I've thought to myself, if you wanted to sell things and you didn't really care, because if you didn't believe in these things, you could make a lot of money. One would be adult entertainment. And we do have a pornography problem in this state and in other states. The other would be being a faux fake evangelist. And we've seen that with Jimmy Swaggart and James Baker and others. And the third would be to embrace gambling. Thank God that we live in Idaho where gambling is not legal. Pat McAfee, again, is very popular with young men. And if you ever listen to any of these shows, you have people that are saying, look, let's, you've got to bet this, the over-under, as if they know anything about gambling. Clay and Buck talk about the probability market. I don't care for that. Probably because I'm one of these people, you can't help yourself. You start winning, you start losing, and, it's an addictive thing. But when something that's fun becomes the main course, and it's not about the game, it's about gambling, then you lose focus. And thankfully, the state of Idaho, and people can bag on the governor all they want, they can bag on the legislature all they want, they can bag on Mike Moyle all they want, but we have kept gambling out of this state. We have kept weed out of this state. We have kept a lot of things out of this state, and I hope that we can continue to keep those detrimental things out of this state. What's the harm of gambling? Tell that to the people that have lost everything. What's the harm of gambling? Tell that to the people that used to tune into something. And it all started with fantasy sports. It all started with fantasy. Oh, what's wrong with my fantasy players? And now it's just crazy. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. And I hope and I pray that the state keeps those things out of the state. We don't need to be losing our money to gambling. And with all due respect to those people that advocate for it, they are misinformed. They are misinformed publicly and privately. There is a lot of harm to it. These are the same people that say, what's wrong with legalizing weed? Just go to Denver. Just go to Ontario. And if you can't figure that out, well, then God bless you. Maybe you should move to Australia or Cincinnati, Ohio, or Louisville, Kentucky, where they embrace the filth. We go down to Ron Grant, who joins us now at 580 KIDO. Good morning, Ron.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
Good morning, young man. How are we doing today?
Well, it's all about money and keeping our money safe. Let's talk about it. We've got a lot of things going on. How do we depression-proof our money, Ron? Is that a fantasy, or can you make that happen?
No, I do that all the time for myself and for my clients. Speaking of gambling, if you've got your money in a 401k, an IRA, you're in the Wall Street casino, you're rolling the dice with your retirement. And my clients and I, we don't like that. Babe Ruth back in the day had an annuity. And when the 29 crash came, a lot of the players were impoverished and standing in bread lines. But Babe was living a comfortable life because he had purchased an annuity. His manager had promoted that for him. And my clients and I have the same. We have a lifetime income that we can't outlive. And when we've passed away, our beneficiaries will get the balance. Now, we get to participate in some of the upside of Wall Street, but never the downside. And the nice thing about it is that when we have a gain, we lock the gains and we go one way and that's up. But that lifetime income, Kevin, is so important that we can't outlive. If we're married, when one spouse passes, the other spouse gets that lifetime income for them. And then when they pass, whatever's left goes to the beneficiaries.
Well, Ron, that's nothing to bark at. What's the biggest objection you have when people talk to you? What do they say to you?
The biggest objection is they can't believe that they can get a lifetime income. And, this product's been around over 40 years. Annuities themselves have been around since 1740. Now, are there bad annuities? Of course there's bad annuities, Variable annuities. What's a variable? Up and down, full of risk and fees, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds inside of an insurance product. So my clients and I, we want to make sure that we have a product that will not let us lose our principal, not let us lose our gains, But most importantly, Kevin, that income, that lifetime income is for the rest of your natural life. And that's important, especially today in the volatile times that we have.
And Ron, if people want to get a hold of you, what can they do, sir?
Put together an educational website and go on 24/7, safermoneyspecialist.com. But, let's have a phone conversation right here in the Treasure Valley about how you can have a guaranteed income that you can't outlive. Zero stock market risk, but most importantly, Kevin, that legacy protection for you and your family. That's what you work 30, 40 years for. My number is 208-660-1372.
Ron Grant, we appreciate you. You have a great weekend.
Sir, you do the same. Appreciate you, buddy. Take care.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We continue on, taking a look at a couple of things going on. What about the Iranian negotiations? Let's get the very latest from Jeff Paul.
As we wait for some sort of response from Tehran regarding the latest U.S. peace proposal, President Trump is sending his own unique message to the heart of the Iranian political system when he was asked whether or not he would meet with Iran's new supreme leader.
I don't want to meet, but if I did meet, I'd be honored to meet him. I'd like to see if we make a deal.
Now, at the moment, there are doubts over a potential peace deal. Israeli forces and the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah continue to exchange strikes despite Israel and Lebanon agreeing to a ceasefire. Hezbollah has rejected the latest deal, saying it's humiliating and is demanding all Israeli troops retreat from Lebanon. President Trump says he's spoken with Hezbollah and progress is being made.
There we have it. Probably not a deal over the weekend. Jonathan Savage?
The International Atomic Energy Agency says it's been unable to inspect nuclear facilities in Iran affected by last June's bombing campaign. This from a confidential report sent to UN member states and seen by the AP. The IAEA states it can't tell us anything about the current size, composition or whereabouts of Iran's enriched uranium. Iran's only allowed inspectors to visit one nuclear power plant this year. It uses pre-enriched uranium from Russia. The IAEA believes Iran has nearly 1,000 pounds of uranium nearly pure enough to make a nuclear weapon. Jonathan Savage, Fox News.
More on that in a minute. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Here we are talking about gambling in Idaho. And, of course, this issue involving whether or not this war is going to end. And we live in such a strange ADD world, if you will, where we expect things to be done quickly. I guess you could say it's the Amazonification, and I know that's not a word. I can't even pronounce it, but where we get something online and it's so quick, and what do they call that? The dopamine hit is so fast when we pick up things. And then when we go somewhere and we're not dealing with an algorithm, we're dealing with a person, and this person's trying to do their job, trying to do this, trying to do that. And maybe we've had too much cholesterol in our lives. Maybe we've had too much caffeine. So we don't really get it, and we don't have any patience. Now, I'm not talking about dealing with incompetency, but here we are taking on the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. We've shut down their military. We've cut them off from everything, and yet there is no deal.
President Trump says that he doesn't want to meet with the new supreme leader necessarily, but he would if it meant that a deal could be done, even though he knows that the new guy is probably kind of bitter.
Well, I would say I'm not his favorite person. But with that being said, he's probably I don't know. He's probably a professional. In some circles, he has a very good reputation, actually.
President Trump told us he didn't order a commando raid to gather enriched uranium in Iran that he calls nuclear dust because he could not be guaranteed about its success. Removing that stuff is going to have to be part of a diplomatic deal.
Sure. So a couple of stories going on right now. Apparently, the space station have been given evacuation orders over an air leak, shelter and craft. This is an unprecedented situation. Also, from Drudge, AI escaping human control. Duh. Bots outnumber people online. Duh. Are you kidding me? This is crazy. So we'll continue to keep you updated on that situation. But back to where we are, and I think it comes down to believability. Do you believe the President of the United States when he says these guys, we're going to go nuclear? The president who says a lot of things. Remember, on one hand, we're going, talking about how evil this person is. And then the president says he doesn't want to meet him. He'd be honored to meet him. The only thing that I can think of is you go back to the Grisham movie, A Fool with a Cause. And we're talking about the Iranians. His wife has been killed, his daddy, his mama. He ain't interested in talking. He's felt and survived the pain. He's disfigured. People have called him gay. We don't know if he's gay or not. But to that guy, that's probably about it's not a compliment. They're not down with the Pride Month. They throw people off the roofs if they're gay. In America, we don't do that. And they view that as a weakness. So here the president is once again sending a signal. The problem is that bridge has been burned. And here's the challenge. And here is leadership. And here is where decisive action needs to be taken. What do you do? Increase the sanctions? Start bombing civilian infrastructure? Make them feel the pain? Take out Karg Island? And say, better them than us? Do we have enough weapons to do this? Never mind the Taiwanese, never mind the Chinese, never mind everything else. Do we effectively go all in? We went all in. It wasn't enough to take them out. We go back to George Bush, the second, not the first. Remember when Iraq was going bad and people said, you either get out or you go all in. And there's a great Bob Woodward book. I can't remember the title of it. And he's meeting with the generals, and this is what it comes down to. We don't hire people as a consensus leadership person. We hire people to make the call. George Bush knew he was going to war. He was going to war alone, and it would be success or failure would be given to him based on the surge. The surge worked. Now, when we're talking about this Iranian situation, they're bleeding us out. They're bleeding us out with the help of the Democratic Party. They're bleeding us out with the help of the media. And essentially what they're doing is, you heard the other day where you had the goofy congresswoman saying that we're losing the war. No, losing the war would mean the Iranians are hitting us here in America. Losing the war would mean that we are sending people to die. The only people dying right now are the Iranian military people, not us. We are winning this war. Now, is it a propaganda war, to quote Alex Jones? Yes. Remember, we used to have Alex here at 580 KIDO. An informational war. And the Democrats and the media have declared this war is over. Could you imagine if Joe Biden were doing this? What would be the vibe? Well, Joe is courageous. Only Joe Robin Biden, that masculine man, could do this. No. This is the president. The charm offensive isn't working. Hezbollah isn't working. He's embarrassed them. He's destroyed them. They have nothing left to lose. More than a minute, 580 KIDO. Let us roll on, get you to work safely and on time. 580 KIDO traffic. Hello, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin, from the Pacific Steel and Recycling Studios. Traffic now looking good on the freeway. Earlier accident cleared up. Don't forget about construction State Street at Glenwood as you go eastbound. Middle 2 lanes are under construction. Fence and Lumber is your Cedar Factory outlet, saving you 70% off the big box stores and now more convenient than ever. Fence and Lumber, now open in Cuna, online at fenceandlumber.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Good news. Great jobs report. Fox will have it at the top of the hour. But at 580-5436, 580 KIDO, the start of the war, gas prices were under $3. Right now, they're $4.22. You almost would say that they're stabilizing right now. Gas prices going down during the summer, and yet you have the boogeyman and other people saying that we're in the midst of global apocalypse, a global apocalypse, if you will, because of the energy crisis. as this war goes on, as these issues continue to be resolved or unresolved, the world adjusts. And right now, the world has survived without anything coming out of the Straits of Hormuz, the Persian Gulf. What does that do? It only makes us stronger. It only makes us more self-reliant. And as I said before, when we're looking at the war, this is the president is winning this thing without congressional support. The Republicans, they look at the president as a diminishing commodity. And you're starting to see this as he continues to take out the Cornyn's, the Kennedys, the Masseys, what's her name? Marjorie Taylor Greene. You're going to see more and more of these people turning on the president and not passing the Save America Act and not doing the right thing. We'll think more about that in a minute. By the way, our top story trending right now, NASA astronauts aboard the International Space Station have been ordered to take shelter on a spacecraft docked at the outpost as repairs are made to air leaks on the Russian segment. The decision was made out of caution due to cracks in the aging International Space Station. By the way, we should have kept it, calling it the Space Station Freedom, which was its original name. Now, apparently, the Russian model, the Ziziva, is where the issue is. Russian cosmonauts are conducting extensive repairs, prompting Americans and French astronauts on board to take safety precautions in the SpaceX Dragon escape capsule. The ISS, home to 7 astronauts from various countries, continues to serve as a platform for scientific research in microgravity. Of course, people are saying, when will we put that thing to rest? Obviously, the danger going on right now, we'll have the latest from Fox News at the top of the hour here, but troubling as the cracks continue, and hopefully the Soviets or the Russians, the cosmonauts, not the astronauts, but the cosmonauts will be able to fix their portion of the station. Used to be known under President Reagan as Space Station Freedom. We'll have more on that coming up. And I want to go back to the war. We don't talk really about the war enough. We talk about this, we talk about that. What about the war? Are you with us till the end, or are you piecing out? Let's find out the answers together with Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Good morning. Available on YouTube, podcasting, schmodcasting, you name it. You can get it anywhere. Joining us now, live from the White House, Jared Halper joining us, Fox News Radio. Jared, always great to have you with us.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. 2 big wins for the president, or at least one. The immigration bill has passed, funding ICE and the Border Patrol. I know that was a big one.
It's passed the Senate. Senate got through it very early this morning following a vote-a-rama using that budget reconciliation process. Still has to get through the House of Representatives. That's expected to happen early next week, probably Tuesday, Wednesday. And, listen, it's a tight Republican majority in the House. So I'm not sure we're in a stage where even a party line vote is necessarily a slam dunk, but certainly this is closer than the president has gotten on fully ending this DHS funding shutdown in quite some time. This would be the last funding piece, ICE, Border Patrol, something that President Trump has called for a long time, though some of his other policy agenda items did not make it into this. He had pushed for Republicans to also include the Save America Act, that voter ID law. There was an attempt to put that into this that failed. Even a majority, a simple majority, didn't approve that. There were 4 Republicans who voted against it, and there was some attempts by Democrats to halt the weaponization fund, to halt ballroom funding, all of that. That didn't make it in either. So for all intents and purposes, this is sort of a clean spending bill, DHS, ICE, border enforcement related. And as I said, big step that it got through the Senate, now heads to the House where it's expected to get voted on probably Tuesday. They got to do some Nothing is instant in Congress. They've got to run through the traps there as well. But Republican leadership, at least, is optimistic that they'll get this onto the president's desk pretty early next week.
What about the war? The president talking about the supreme leader. You guys have been running with that a lot. What's going on there?
I think we're still in this holding pattern, right? The status quo has been holding for several weeks. The president has sort of indicated that this is a ceasefire that has its moments of not being a ceasefire. The U.S. has carried out what CENTCOM calls defensive strikes. Iran has retaliated, firing missiles and drones at Gulf states, including a deadly strike in Kuwait at their airport that killed a civilian. It injured an awful lot of folks, too. But so far, we've not seen that escalation. These talks or negotiations kind of continue indirectly, trading of papers. The president's kind of waiting for a response from Iran that he says would have to open the Strait of Hormuz, would end the blockade, would have to allow the U.S. to come in and collect what he calls the nuclear dust, the highly enriched uranium that has been buried under an awful lot of rubble because of U.S. and Israeli strikes. So it remains to be seen, I think, how long this kind of ceasefire status quo with the strait closed, all of the economic hardships that comes along with that remains in place. It's also notable that this week, for the first time, a resolution to end the U.S. combat operation in Iran passed the House of Representatives. It got enough Republican votes to join with every Democrat to advance that measure. The Senate will probably vote on that next week. Listen, even if the Senate passes it, and I think that's still a pretty big if, the president would veto it. This did not pass with a veto-proof majority. But it does show at least a growing level of congressional maybe concern about this, Congress starting to maybe exert itself a little bit more the longer that this goes on, given that it has not just been kind of a 2 or 3 week or 4 week operation that it was believed to have been at the outset.
Yeah. Again, it'll be interesting to see how that plays in the Senate.
Yeah.
Finally, has there ever been a candidate for the Senate in Maine that has gotten so much attention on Capitol Hill?
Yeah, Graham Plattner has had to come to Capitol Hill, had to meet with Democrats, in some cases trying to, I think, calm their concerns as more and more reporting about his past comes out. Obviously, there had been a lot of controversy surrounding this Democratic candidate anyway because of, the Nazi tattoo and some of his previous online posts. And then yesterday, the New York Times coming out with a piece that talked to ex-girlfriends who described threatening and in some cases abusive behavior by Graham Plattner. A lot of Democrats now are getting asked if they're going to pull their support, if they still support Graham Plattner. The Maine primary is on Tuesday. And here's the notable thing. Remember, Plattner was running for the Democratic nomination against Janet Mills, who is the sitting governor. She suspended her campaign, but says she did not abandon her campaign. She remains on the ballot in Maine. Democrats will have an opportunity to vote for her if they so choose. Maine is also a ranked choice voting state, which means that you don't vote just for one candidate. You vote for your first choice, your second choice, on and on and on. And so that can provide, a couple of surprises as we've seen in the past. So I think it's a race that has gotten a lot more interesting. Obviously, Plattner is maybe not a candidate that is ideal, that you would like, as President Trump would say, out of central casting. And he also is going against, if he were to win this Democratic nomination, against Susan Collins, who has won an awful lot in Maine and has been trailing in polls in previous campaigns and prevailed. And yesterday cast, I think, something like her 10,000th consecutive vote in the Senate. So she is a formidable candidate, and it is a race to watch because it is hard to see a path for Democrats to flip the Senate, to win enough Senate seats to flip it without Maine being one of them. And so this has been a race that is now kind of front and center for those of us that keep track of these political campaigns and political races.
Yeah, and again, it's fascinating how the Democrats, when they're asked about this, they'll either give a generic answer or they go back to President Trump.
Yeah, listen, I think politics are what they are in this country, right? And I think, people have to decide, right? Voters have to decide kind of what's important. Is this going to be about character and personality? Is this going to be about policy? We've heard from Democrats who have said, they don't love everything that Graham Plattner has posted or said or his past or anything else, but believe that he would be better for the policies that they want to advance, right? That's something voters are going to have to decide in Maine. And it's something that Democrats on Capitol Hill have had to answer for an awful lot this week. And it does remind me of, the early days of President Trump's presidential run in 2015 and 2016, when Republican senators were getting asked everything about him and had to kind of navigate those questions in those waters. So it always comes back around in politics, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And Susan Collins, very remarkable, voted for Obamacare and voted to impeach Donald Trump.
Listen, she is an independent, she has shown that she has an independent streak, kind of like Lisa Murkowski in Alaska, right? These are senators who have been around a long time, have been won in states that are kind of these independent, very rural, very we'll go it our own way kind of states, right? They are hard states to win, both Maine and Alaska. They are hard states to campaign in. And she has time and again beaten the odds when people thought that she was down and out and was facing a formidable challenge. And, we've seen polling in the past that showed her down like 6 or 7 points the last time she was up, and I think she won that race by like 8 points. So, listen, she is a good candidate. She knows how to win in Maine. Regardless of whether it is Plattner or a come from suspending your campaign victory by Janet Mills, that's going to be a tough race for Democrats. And again, the reason that there is so much attention on Graham Plattner is because that is a race that Democrats really need to win if they have any shot of flipping control of the Senate come November.
Jared Halpern, you have a great weekend, sir. I hope you get to play some golf.
You too. I'm going to try. Thank you.
More coming up next, 580 KIDO.
Politics isn't a bad thing.
Okay. I hate to burst your bubble, though, but you act as if everybody's under this illusion that American politics is somehow newly scandalous. I hate to break it to you. It is always been scandalous. Thomas Jefferson had children with a slave who was not his wife. Okay, JFK was looking up the skirt of every female in the West Wing that wasn't Jackie O. Bill Clinton didn't have sexual relations with that woman in the Oval. But you know what? Despite all of those men's personal faults, all of them did great things for this country. And so this illusion that somehow American politics is newly scandalous.
I just want to point out that may be true. What you're saying may be true. But the recent past history is that Democrats tried to deny a Supreme Court seat to Brett Kavanaugh over allegations against him. It was about when he was in high school.
Yeah.
Yes. So and college. So again, I'm not trying to say one thing or another. I'm just asking you, are we willing to hold the same standard for one person and the same standard for another person? That is the question.
I think it is important. I think it should be held.
And there we have it from the Thunderdome show on CNN last night. You have one of the former Trump people, young lady, millennial, at the height of her game, sitting here going on and on and on about her whole vibe, about your character, your personal character doesn't matter. I would disagree with you on that. And I was one of the early people as a baby host that said what Bill Clinton did mattered. JFK, what he did mattered. Brett Kavanaugh, what he didn't do mattered. And here you have Plattner, who has a lot of allegations against him. The knives are out for him. And you can't sit there and say you're a tough guy. You can't sit there and condemn people without being willing, being able to being condemned. I see that a lot in life where we have people that can dish it out, but they can't take it. You ever been around people like that, very thin-skinned, that they can't take direction, they have a big mouth, they're jerks. And you have jerks that will condemn people. But as soon as you say, well, let's take a look at the same standard for you, ma'am, you, sir, it's unfair, it's horrible, it's this, it's that. That's not how it goes. That's not how it should be. But that's unfortunately where we are. And here we have people saying, again, a former Trump campaign communications person who's talking about JFK and everything else. Well, they call that sexual harassment. And Plattner, it looks like he's a pansy, a stooge, whatever you want to say, because he knew this stuff was coming out. His wife knew this stuff was coming out. And this is just the beginning. I'm sure they have much more on this guy.
Bit of that in our politics isn't it bad?
Okay. I hate to burst your bubble, though, but you act as if everybody's under this illusion that American politics is somehow newly scandalous. I hate to break it to you. It has always been scandalous. Thomas Jefferson had children with a slave who was not his wife. Okay, JFK was looking up the skirt of every female in the West Wing that wasn't Jack.
It's weird about this is this used to be the purview of talk radio. Now it's digital smidgedal. Everyone is auditioning. Everyone wants to be controversial. Everyone wants to be provocative. Everybody wants to say the unthinkable thing. And then until the next person says it. But in Idaho, which is why we're very different, jerks don't win. In Idaho, it's about principle. It's about character. And I could say that for all of our public servants.
Oh, Bill Clinton didn't have sexual relations with that woman in the Oval. But you know what? Despite all of those men's personal faults, all of them did great things for this country.
Really? What did Bill Clinton do? What did Bill Clinton do? JFK? Killed before he could do anything. Again, it's the philosophy of the soundbite. The wisdom of the clickbait.
So this illusion that somehow American politics is newly scandalous.
I just want to point out that may be true, but you're saying may be true. But the recent past history is that Democrats tried to deny a Supreme Court seat to Brett Kavanaugh over allegations against him. It was about when he was in high school. Yes. And college. So again, I'm not trying to say one thing or another. I'm just asking you, are we willing to hold?
Yeah. Abby Phillips there, a great one on that one. And then you have poor Plattner going, well, I may have gotten a little rough. I was a bad person. Really? I was a bad boyfriend, but I shouldn't be disqualified for being a bad senator.
Part of that, though, in people in Maine, right, is that like they're going to react to new information, right? They're going to keep forming an opinion, and you're going to run a very, again, if you are the nominee, as it appears you are headed to be, a pretty brutal campaign against Susan Collins, who has been a real electoral colossus and has beaten back, nominee after nominee, and did beat Sarah Gideon by however many points after she was polling up 9, and when people think themselves, and I know this was the meeting that you had in Washington, right, where you stood in front of Democratic senators and said, the worst rumors you've heard aren't true, I think was a sentence that was reported. At this point, I guess people have to take you at your word that that's true and that there's nothing else. Is that what you are saying?
Yes, of course. And even this new reporting, the new things are false. And the fact that I was, a bad boyfriend a decade ago, that's something I've talked about openly at length for quite some time in multiple places. So there is an element where, now I have no doubt, like I mentioned earlier, that this is a dirty campaign. I do expect the Republican Party to fight as dirty as possible. And I expect them to try to create things. I expect them to try to drag stuff up consistently. But there won't be anything new. It's going to be a rehashing of essentially the same stuff. And I honestly think that's why it's just going to fall flat, because I've been incredibly open and accountable for everything throughout this campaign. When we've been faced with allegations of things, when people have brought up stuff from my past, I don't run away from it. In fact, I lean into it and we have a deep conversation about it, because I do think people need to see that it is possible to really change over time and become a better person. And every single day, I wake up trying to be a better version of myself than the day before.
Did he ever apologize for any of those comments? You know, this is why you think to yourself, why do you run for office? This guy was being a good oyster, clam, fish guy and minding his own business, could get on, any of these platforms and say this, say that, do all sorts of things. And now he's talking about the Republican Party. Well, it's not the Republican Party that is holding him accountable. And by the way, we can say what we want about Susan Collins. And by the way, I don't really understand it. People love to work. And maybe she's worried about if you stop working, you die. That she's almost unbeatable. Do you want a non-polarizing person that will vote with Obama and Trump, or do you want the crazy man? The guy that texts women that's not his wife, the guy that uses profanity, a man's man. Hey, who do you want in the United States Senate? And oh, by the way, look, I'm just sitting there driving around the other day, and I'm watching the billboards, and you've got somebody, I don't know who, running against Senator Risch, and they've decided to use Senator Risch's age against him. And they've decided to use Senator Risch's success against him. And I'm going, is that the best you have? You're going to use somebody's age and wealth against them. I think that if Senator Risch, and he doesn't miss a beat when he's in town, he's working the land, he's doing this, he's doing that. If Senator Risch wants to keep working and flying and enjoying himself and serving Idaho, remember, seniority matters in the House and the Senate. And, people go, we need change. Change means we lose our stroke. We've got, Senator Crapo, head of finance. We've got Senator Risch, head of foreign relations. He and Marco Rubio were the only ones that were on relations and intelligence committees together. And we want to get rid of that for some guy who puts up a billboard. And the only thing, it's funny. You don't have anything when you attack someone's age or when you attack their success or whatever. You can agree or disagree with them, but what are you for? Again, it sounds like something you'd see from Kroger or something from Cincinnati, Ohio, not Boise, Idaho, really. And if that's your gig, so be it. You should go to Cincinnati, Ohio. You shouldn't be here in Idaho proclaiming to represent people because, again, people have opportunities. Obviously, this person wants to be the senator. This person wants to do wonderful things and all sorts of things. Good. God bless them. Best to them. But why don't you talk about what you're going to do? How can you improve? How can you replace Senator Risch? Besides making fun of his age, it's like people that make fun of my weight. As Al from Ontario has proven, it's very easy to disagree with me. My logic is very shallow and very flawed. Why not do that at a certain level, not the Graham Plattner level? Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. We have other issues going on. Graham Plattner, and I think this goes to home to people of faith. It goes to home to, people in Idaho are very forgiving. If you have a servant's heart, if you forgive people, then yes, you can move on and you can do things. If you do not, if you are like Mr. Plattner and you're jumping into this, and now he's saying he's not worried about other things. I think personal accountability matters. So 2 topics at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I go back to personal accountability, that you should, again, if you're going to run for office, you are a role model. If you're going to run for office, then you have to be someone that people maybe not look up to, but are on the same level morally. Plattner has issues. Number 1, the Nazi tattoo. Number 2, all these things, flirting with people that are not your wife, and gosh knows what else. And then the guy defends the tattoo, saying, well, I didn't know it was. Just say, hey, man, it was the thing to do. I wanted to be a tough guy. And then again, you have the comments saying, the ridiculous comments saying that we have scoundrels. We also had good people of faith, good people that put it on the line and were selfless, not selfish. More on that in a minute. Back to the war. Here we are, rolling again and again and again. And it's getting kind of normal. Should it be?
Into a corner and you look at the Strait of Hormuz, is that an option for them to block that?
If they block the Strait of Hormuz, we will take out literally all their military on the Strait of Hormuz. That's an act of war if they pull a stunt like that, and they know what the results of that will be. And that will push the United States into conflict. Iran does not want conflict with the United States. Remember, 38 years of conflict, all using proxies, avoiding direct confrontation with their own military. That is one thing. Despite the fact that they harass our ships, they'll fire a missile here and there, they do not want that kind of conflict.
By the way, that was General Jack King, not recently, but in 2018. TPB joins us now at 580-KIDO. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Miller, and how are you this fine day? Getting ready for the weekend and a lot of relaxation?
No, a lot of training, I think.
Oh, back to the treadmill. Okay. Well, that's the best thing for you, my friend. If you ever get tired of doing the treadmill, come up here. You can do some weed whacking with me. I got about 1.5 acres to work on.
No, I'm good with. You can whack your own weeds.
Yeah, right. I like the wacky weed. Anyway, we're in a propaganda war, and I found too many Americans live in a world of sound bites and have lost all sense of reality because they don't do any homework, which is why many go to the polls and vote for people who they really know nothing about except for the mailed propaganda they received or something they read or heard on TV, radio, or social media. Today's media subjects us to propagandized messages that in many cases they are meaningless, untrue, completely riddled with lies that are intended to influence how we think and what we accept or reject. 1 in 5 Americans, or 21%, say they regularly get news from social media news influencers. That's 55 million adults receiving their political information from sources that operate with no editorial accountability whatsoever. So too many Americans are no longer thinking for themselves because they have stopped using the critical thinking skills in favor of sound bites and messages they received on their electronic devices. 79% of Americans believe social media has made people more politically divided, and 69% say it has made people less civil in how they talk about politics. And out of all the developed democracies, America is the country most damaged by media-driven opinion manipulation. Most of the reason is because we have free speech here. We talk about the moral decline in our country, where 74% believe moral values are weaker than they were 20 years ago, and believe that it's a result of deceptive media messaging. And indeed, that's probably true. Insight from research finds that it's not sound bites that change minds, but repetition, emotional framing, and identity association. This is why the most effective political messaging doesn't say, here's the evidence for this position, but instead says, people like you believe this. And once a belief becomes part of the identity, questioning it feels like questioning yourself. So think about the fact that 85 to 90% of Americans are consistently exposed to politically motivated messaging on the media. And when you look at it, 55 to 65% show measurable changes in opinion or attitudes that researchers can trace back to these media entities and their consumption patterns. Then, of course, there's 20 to 25% who are highly susceptible, where their core beliefs, including values around patriotism, religion, civic identity, are meaningfully shifted in response to these targeted messages. So, the people who are most resistant to this propaganda are the ones who actively diversify their information sources and do their own research by actually seeking out primary documents over commentary they see or hear, and then they apply the same skepticism to messages they agree with as to the messages they don't. So typically, people with stronger prior education and media literacy and more diverse information sources or deeper-rooted community are those whose values are anchored independently of media. So, as you can see, media plays an extremely important part in how Americans feel.
But you know, but we see that all the time with the war. The war is going bad. The war is this. The war is that. The you know, again, everything's bad, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, we've stopped them from killing us, but that's not good enough for these jerks.
Yeah, but people listen to this, or read it, or respond to it every day, and some of them 24/7. You know, this is where we've gone wrong. Free speech is great, only if you understand what you're reading or what people are telling you. But too many people don't understand that, and you can see that in the way this country has become so divided in such a short period of time.
Well, you know, what do you think of the war?
Define war.
What's going on in the Persian Gulf?
Well, if you want to call that a war, I'd say that we're doing something that had to be done, that everybody neglected to do for 47 years. And it hopefully will make us all a little bit safer and a little bit more secure.
All right, Tea Party Bob, thank you for the call. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. You know, we're talking about the war, and he's talking about propaganda and Al saying that he and Mike don't know what they're talking about. Sometimes, and again, with respect to Tea Party Bob, you get too focused on getting your talking points out. You're not really embracing the overall conversation, which is what most of us tune in for, the conversation. At 580-5436, 580 KIDO. And it comes down to credibility, and it comes down to, and I'm not talking about Tea Party Bob, but we're talking about selling this war. Now, to his greater point, it's propaganda. I get that, but you can't condemn people. This is just how people consume it. And it's antiquated that people, you get your news from CNN, well, you're going to get the liberal version of things. You get your things from Fox News, you're going to get a more establishment conservative vibe, if you will. But the point I'm trying to make here is you have some people that think that Plattner should continue on, that it doesn't matter how bad your personal peccadillos are because they keep comparing it to President Trump. President Trump does not have a Nazi tattoo on him, does he?
What do you think should happen here with this candidate?
I think he should stay in the race. I was never bothered by any of the scandals with Donald Trump. I'm not bothered by Graham Plattner's scandals at all. We have a two-tiered system of scandal in our country. If you are the establishment political candidate of either party, all your scandals get to stay nice and tidy in the closet. But if you're the anti-establishment populist candidate of either party, Republican or Democrat, all of your scandals get dragged out into the light. As long as Ted Cruz, who is a sitting U.S. senator, was allowed to flee his people in the middle of a blizzard, go off to the Four Seasons Cancun, and then when he was caught, blame his teenage daughter, if that guy gets to...
See, I really, again, wonder the thinking with this young lady. Okay, that was poor judgment. That was not, I mean, let's continue on with this. You get a tattoo. I don't have tattoos. I'm not vilifying people that have tattoos, but let's say you get a tattoo and you're married to someone and you get divorced and you get remarried. Do you get rid of that tattoo? I don't know. Or do you keep it there? There's a lot of people that have to go through those things. You think, okay, I'm running to be the senator from Maine, a very politically correct place to live. I should probably get rid of the skull and crossbones, the SS, whatever it is. I don't know. I don't care. But imagine if it was Ted Cruz that had this. And so, again, here you have this lady that worked for Donald Trump, very attractive millennial, older millennial, saying it doesn't matter. Politics is a dirty game. I think that it does. Because if you insert Ted Cruz in the name of replacing Graham Plattner, this guy's career is toast.
The Senate seat, Graham Plattner gets to stay in this area. Absolutely, I can.
Oh, come on, Carol.
And by the way, are you not cluing into any of the timing here? Isn't it interesting that the allegations against Eric Swalwell came out when they did, and now the allegations against Graham Plattner came out when they did? Are you sensing a pattern here? Politics is a dirty game. I've worked in it. I know.
Anti-Semitism here versus a father going to check, make sure his daughter's, or whatever. Let's say he's totally wrong, Ted Cruz. Okay, you abandoned your
Yeah. From the mouths of babes, if you will. And you have people that they're not dummies. They form intelligent, coherent arguments and say it with a straight face. Like I said, maybe Mr. Plattner can be welcome in other places. It would not work here, and it shouldn't work. But the Democrats are in a quandary on how to defend this guy. And it shows you the difference between the Republican Party that gets rid of these people, and the Democratic Party that embraces them because the eye is on the prize. We just need 3 seats. Well, you're not going to win in Idaho. You're not going to win in other parts of the country. So what do you try to do? Well, we're going to throw in Plattner and see what happens with Plattner. And, it doesn't really matter if he's doing these things. I think that it does matter. And we'll see. Okay, enough of Maine. They want to be the potato state. They're never going to be the potato state. We'll move on. Back to the war. Think about that. We've had another great jobs report today. The media will not give us credit for it. And we have core inflation dropping.
Core inflation reflects gasoline prices.
Core inflation, it reflects the underlying trend in inflation and whether that inflation has become endemic to the system as it did during President Biden.
Has the war in Iran had anything to do with core inflation?
Sir?
Does the war in Iran have anything to do with core inflation? Or you can't answer that, or either, or are we precluded from asking that?
Well, I'm not sure what the question is.
Let me make it as simple as I can. Does the war in Iran, are you with me? Does the war in Iran
thus far
have witnessed the rise in gas prices as it caused?
Well, again, that is the regular inflation, and gas prices have gone up, which I believe will be temporary.
Gas prices have gone up, but you believe they're temporary.
Core inflation has dropped 0.5% since President Trump came to office.
Geez, when I'm home in my district, I'm going to just tell those people, geez, you know what? You've missed this whole thing. Don't you understand core inflation? You guys are better off. I mean, these gas prices, I don't know what you people are thinking out there. For God's sake, you should be doing cartwheels in the street over the price of gas. So what is the administration's plan to lower gas prices?
We've taken the many.
Are you in favor of eliminating the gas tax?
We have moved to.
Are you in favor of eliminating the gas tax?
We would like to work.
Are you able to answer that, or is that not?
Well, if I'm not interrupted, I can, Congressman.
Well, I'm waiting for your answer.
We have moved. We have asked Congress to move to eliminate the gas tax. That is done through statute.
You have moved that. So you're in favor of eliminating the gas tax?
We have asked for that.
So we can join bipartisanly today because you're in favor to eliminate the gas tax.
Again, the White House has asked for it, sir.
Right. There we have Representative Larson, not Lars Larson, Larson, who, what was he doing? He's from Connecticut, and he played the gotcha game. So on one hand, and by the way, inflation is a problem. It was a problem during Joe Biden, and I'm glad that eggs are back under control. I'm not saying that to be flippant. I'm glad that we can afford eggs. I'm glad that we can afford some things. On other things, meat, beef, through the roof. Got our friends, the CS Beef Packers. We love them. They're doing a great job. But the beef industry has been hit hard by this. So obviously we've got to invest in more meat, more this, more that, and get those prices down. You can't just wave a magic wand. And the scary thing about this, and we talk about this every week with Dave Petzo at 580 KIDO, is that I'm sitting there looking at the stock market that's going through the roof. The stock market, that it continues, I mean, the jobs report going up, that'll probably impact the market in a negative way. I don't know why, but it seems to, when the jobs are good, it impacts the market in a bad way. When jobs decline, the market seems to cheer against it. So here we are at war, and the stock market's going through the roof, but Americans are struggling. As we talked about earlier, it's on our website. Top trending story is Boise and Meridian sticking it to you by deciding to raise taxes. Is there a community that is lowering taxes? Didn't we just get a massive tax cut by the Idaho legislature? And really, when we got like the massive tax cut from the Idaho legislature, wasn't that the intended consequences of now the alleged savings is just passed on to every city you're living in? If you're living in a city that's cut your taxes, I think that would be good. I think that would be astounding. I don't know if that exists. Has there been a city that, okay, crickets? Has there been a city that has not raised taxes? Never mind cut taxes, but not raised taxes. So to uncover this, we have cities that are mad at House Bill 389. We have the war. We have the stock market. Hello, Micron. Micron is great. Micron stock continues to go up in an unprecedented way, something we've never seen before. But if you don't have Micron, if you are a business person, the cost of doing business continues to go up. That used to be a measure of the economy. That used to impact the stock market. Today, that's not the case. So if the war was ever solved, you want to talk about another economic tsunami in a good way, at least if you have stocks. And remember, 80 to 85% of Americans, maybe even 90% of Americans, do not have money in the stock market. Well, maybe a 401k here, maybe an IRA there, maybe an annuity, but not as if you're all in. So it benefits the few. Now, let's go to Idaho. At 580-5436-580 KIDO, let's go to our great state, where we have the crime-fighting legislature saying, look, we lowered taxes, and we're holding cities accountable. Well, the cities aren't going to go, goody, goody, goody gumdrops. We're not going to raise taxes. We need money. Or as what we like to say, money. We need money. And to get the money, what are we going to do? We're going to raise taxes. And we're going to raise taxes by doing what? Getting the maximum 3%, Ada County, doing the same thing. Now, again, I've begged the Ada County commissioners, please, 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 please don't raise taxes. And, I mean, we have this, remarkable soccer team that everybody's about. But, I don't think the soccer team, as good as they are, as popular as they appear to be, I don't think they want taxes raised. But to me, it seems like apparently we've just gone from a bait and a switch. We've gone from the legislature saying we're going to hold people accountable, and the city's going, we're not going to hold people accountable. What we're going to do is we're going to just stick it to the consumers. And that's what they're doing. And that's why our taxes are going up. I urge people to figure it out. I will gladly help anyone that wants to start a taxpayer accountability organization. I don't know if they have something called the Idaho Taxpayers Association, but if they don't, they should start one. Or the Boise Taxpayer Associations. It's not fun work. It's not happy work. But it's work that needs to be done. And then you think, well, Kevin, it's the big money, it's this, that, and the other. No one likes to pay more in taxes. Maybe the liberals, but maybe that's a way of getting real life reform. Story out of Boise. A teenager in Boise was hospitalized and cited after accidentally shooting themselves in the foot or the leg while they were fleeing the police. Now, it's never good to shoot yourself in the foot or the leg. Never. And apparently, allegedly, they were drinking. The incident occurred when an officer saw someone exit a moving vehicle with a handgun and run from the scene. Not good when you see a police officer and you have a handgun and you're running. To be 17 again. The 17-year-old, he's a male, it figures, ran into a parking garage and fired a shot while trying to escape. The teen was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries and cited for curfew violation and alcohol consumption. The investigation is ongoing and additional charges may be filed against the individuals involved. So a drunk teen with a gun fleeing police shoots himself in the leg. Thank goodness this person was not hurt even more than their stupidity. And again, it shows you just how crazy it is. A couple of things going on over the weekend. West State Street and Eagle to be closed from Friday through Monday for utility work. Again, here we go again. Starting Friday, utility work by Granite Excavation will close West State Street from Eagle Road to Highway 44. Ooh, that's got to hurt. Motorists will be detoured to Eagle Road, Highway 44, Floating Feather, Park Lane, and Ballantyne for the through routes. Business access will remain open during the project for questions about the work, And in Nampa, here we go. Traffic officials announced night work on the bridge over 84 north of Nampa. Maintenance work is scheduled to begin on the U.S. Highway 30 bridge over Interstate 84 at New Plymouth, with crews working from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. Sunday through Thursdays for 2 weeks. Some lanes on 84 will be closed in both directions during these times. Ouch. Why are they doing this? It's called bridge repairs. It's part of the regular work. The work is part of bridge repairs, maintenance to preserve the structure and reduce the need for extensive repairs in the future. Now, drivers, what do? You're advised to slow down, watch for crews, and follow posted signs in the work zones. Now, in other words, don't be speeding, don't be inebriated, don't be asleep, don't be eating a Whopper, as delicious as a Whopper may be. You don't want to do this. Dates and times may change due to weather or unforeseen circumstances. Apparently, the weather is going to be great this weekend. Again, I think, and I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email, or still time left in the program, 580-5436, 580-KIDO, about holding people accountable and taxes going up. And we could sit there and scream and yell, or we can sit there and come up with a solution. I personally would like to come up with a solution. Wait for it.
There she is.
Yeah! Jill Biden, everybody.
Happy birthday, Dr. Biden.
Happy birthday.
Jill, should Joe have dropped out sooner, Jill? Jill, should Joe have dropped out sooner?
Tough to be the Bidens. Delusional. Tough to be the Bidens. Delusional. They believe in their heart of hearts that if Nancy Pelosi didn't pull the coup, along with Chuck Schumer, along with Hakeem Jeffries, along with Barack Obama, Joe would still be president. You think we have challenges now. Imagine if doddering Joe Biden was still the president of the United States. And sometimes that old saying, and I don't know if it started on Saturday Night Live, I don't know if it started on talk radio, but the whole idea of I choose my truth. Think about that. Kind of makes you laugh for a minute. I choose my truth. The truth being, at 580 KIDO, that they believe that they would have beaten Donald Trump. I don't think so. Kamala, flawed candidate. But again, that's what happens. Nobody wants to have somebody better than you ready in the wings. Anyway, always appreciate the show. Thank you for allowing me to be with you Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 10. Appreciate you. Clay and Buck coming up. Sean Hannity, Lars Larson, Glenn Beck. Good day. God bless. Keep the faith. And Kevin Miller loves you.